darkness kills evil in this valley of the dark. So walk with us through it. Come on, now let's start. Every time you show love, your spirit will soar. The angels rejoice as they cry out for more. More of your giving, more kindness and love. Doing more for others as hearts rise above the hate and the fear the world wants to bring is useless against you as your spirit it sings. Because this army is strong, even though they act soft. Every sword used against them, its aim will be off. Every blow, every strike will always falter. This army bows only to the Father's great altar. Bring in the crusaders, bring in those who give. Bring in the peacemakers and those who protect kids. There is no match for this army of good. Send heathens and thieves right back to the hood. Strike out with violence if you feel that you must, but your swing will fall short, bullets crumble to dust. You may win the battle, but you won't win the war, because this army right here brings so much more. To the table we gather with sword and shield. We fight hatred with kindness and the world is healed. We strike cold into the hearts of those who prefer hate, because our hearts are true and our spirits won't break. Bring in the crusaders, bring in those who give. Bring in the peacemakers and those who protect kids. Bring in the great ones who are wise and true. Bring in the intelligent who can always see through. Ooh, 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 in this war for truth, the end is foretold. It's a victory of hearts who come into the fold. Welcome all friends whose hearts are true, spirits are pure. We need all of you.
Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on, what day is it today? Tuesday, a Tuesday night. Good to see you all. We are welcoming our tribe and the DT Turkey tribe family. Thank you for everyone joining us tonight. I'm going to bring in our guests in a second here. And I'm hoping that the time zones work out and that Dr. Vona actually shows up. Okay, he's not. I see DT Daniel nodding in the background. She'll show up. Real quick, before I bring Daniel on, I do this real quick. If you guys from the DT show aren't used to it, just bear with me. We've got a growing membership, and they support all of our searches. So we are very thankful to them, and I like to thank them in every live we do. So I'm going to go real quick through our list of members. If you don't mind, just bear with me. The Rail Rock and Robin, a tribal warrior. Jason Myers, Jessica DeBrower, Sandra Perkins, Robin K. I'll go as fast as I can. Silver Bullet, Smoky Mountain Mama, Brenda Brown, Sam Trucker, John Odell, Geo Bortz, Tribal Chief, Dottie Barnes, Laurel Jones, April Dancy, Kathleen Ann Schugert, Linda Liu, Jenna 79, April Chacott, Karen Mead, Mama 67, Bonita Drake, Where the Wind Blows, Margie T. I'm almost done, you guys. Brenda Lovelace, Janet Wright, Steffi, and Marion Carpenter. We love you guys. Thank you for supporting us. Anyone who doesn't support us as a member, we still love you equally as a member of our tribe. I want to bring in our very special guest, Dan. Thank you for joining us tonight.
How's it going? Thank you for having me. And yes, Dr. Vona is on the way. She asked me to apologize for her, but she's she got held up, but she's on her way. She's just getting her computer getting up and going.
Totally fine. That's she's a busy woman. I noticed she's getting very popular. She's showing up on a few channels here more frequently, which is great. Great to see her get the recognition she deserves as an expert in her field. So that's good.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I mean, she deserves it. Does a lot of good work, and always a good person to talk to, when it comes to things. Me and her bounce ideas off each other when we talk about several different cases, whether it be, going all the way back to the Brian Koberger case, the David case, some of these other missing persons cases that we've covered as well.
Yeah, I've watched her on. She's been covering the Summer Wells case more frequently. I've watched a bunch, and I binged watch her videos because once we had her on, I realized how deep her background goes and how insightful she is on a lot of these cases. So I'm looking forward to tonight. Tonight's going to be really interesting because you and I have dove into just the details of the case. We've gotten into all of the dog scent stuff, the footprints, and she kept mentioning, like, I would go off on my own theory about, I think an accident happened, or more of a very physical, kind of a literal guy. So if I see the dog scent stops at the road, my first instinct is there's got to be something that happened there. And she was a little more, she's like, I don't know, there's family dynamics there. And so I'm really excited tonight because we're going to be getting into the family dynamics and the things that hopefully will come out of the interviews with Dr. Phil. I'm not sure. I want to get your thoughts, Dan. So have you watched the Dr. Phil episode with the Wells?
I did. I did watch the Dr. Phil episode. Yeah. Yes.
So as you know, probably then if you watched it, he sort of did an interview with them on stage, but it was after the behavior panel did in-depth interviews. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, do you have an opinion on which order we should take things?
Well, probably first, just kind of watching what their opinions are. I mean, not their opinions, watching the parents' interview. And then getting the opinions of the expert. I watched it a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. I just started watching this case. But that was one of the first things that I watched when I started to talk about the Summer Wells case. And, to me, when I watched it, there's only so much you can take from a piece of material like that. And what I mean is a lot of it is edited. A lot of it is missing, right? So like when it comes to certain interviews online, and I know this because I've been a part of them. I had an interview once, like Hulu and Washington Post and a bunch of other folks, and my interview was chopped up, edited, out of order. And so when it comes to interviews that are not in its full length, I take what's being said there with a grain of salt, because I also do understand that there's a bit of drama that is added to like some of these bigger media shows and things of that nature. They have a time slot that they have to adhere to. They have ads that they have to adhere to. And so when you have all those things in place, I just take everything from an edited interview with a grain of salt, just because I know that in certain places they may take something and put it in the beginning just because that something is impactful and it'll get the viewer to watch.
Compelling, yeah. Yep, I
agree. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Welcome, Dr. Vona.
Hi, you guys. I want to apologize to everyone's subscribers. I do finals this week and I have 10 classes and I didn't account for students with accommodations. So it held me up a little bit and I apologize. I do respect everyone's time.
You do not need to apologize. We know how busy you are. You have a professional life outside of YouTube. So it's
I
totally
appreciate
fine.
it. I was like freaking out. I'm like, please apologize for me.
I did.
Thanks.
So for those of you who are, we'll go through introductions. For those of you who are new to our channel, my channel, this channel is Ryan Finds Truth, and we started as a hiking nature channel. We gravitated toward trying to contribute more to the community through missing persons cases. So we started actually using our hiking outdoor skills to try to find missing persons. and I'm an electrical engineer by trade. So I started incorporating electronics, things like drones, underwater drones, air drones, cameras of all types. And we've recently started training our dog. And we are just getting started. We are definitely not experts in SAR, but we're working on it, and we're doing our best to help the families, especially in East Tennessee. We have at least four core cases that we're covering right now, and working with the families and just praying that law enforcement honestly solves those cases. Dan, why don't you go first? Tell everyone who hasn't heard about your channel what you're all about and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Daniel from the DT Show. I've been in YouTube just over 3 years now. It's kind of gone by pretty quick. I started covering true crime with the arrest of Richard Allen and out of Delphi and the Delphi murders, and then transitioned to Brian Koberger and the Idaho murders. That's where majority of my viewers and viewership does come from. I've interviewed tons of people that are involved in that case. If you've seen the Amazon Prime documentary, anybody that's not a key witness in that video, like Anjanette Levy, Howard Bloom, everybody that had a Jennifer Coffindaffer, anybody that had a role in those productions, they have been on my channel several times covering the Brian Koberger case. We also had family victim members. Steve Gonsalves on the channel. I've also interviewed Christy Gonsalves, who are the parents of Kaylee Gonsalves. I've helped out with other cases here recently, actually. Can't talk too much about it, but I'm actually helping out with a cold case too. Wow. And that might be moving in the right direction into something. And so I can't talk too much about anything else that goes along with that. I might actually be having to take some trips out somewhere to look at some actual evidence and some things. It's pretty wild. Cool. We got something to move. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so,
you're very humble. I notice you don't mention it all the time. Why don't you tell people, before you got to YouTube, you had a career in law enforcement. What was that like?
Oh yeah, no, I had a brief career. Well, I mean, some people call it brief. I call it brief. Some people think it's longer. It's about 8-year career in law enforcement. Had a lot of injuries, which is one of the reasons why I got out. But I was just a regular law enforcement officer. I had some ambitions. I wanted to do certain things, mainly go federal. I had a back injury that prevented that. Was on my way there. Had taken the intro exam or the entrance exam, got a 99. I was in the top of the list. Then I was arresting a guy. And long story short, I fell down. A lot of officers came to help and tackled us. I landed first, landed on a rock right on my spine. Everybody landed on me, herniated a few discs, ended up jumping up. I felt it, but it wasn't something that I thought hurt that bad. I just felt like I landed on a rock. I thought I landed on my shoulder, to be 110% honest with you. Arrested the guy, put him in the vehicle, took him down to the station, but my shoulder was just kind of out of whack after that. My supervisor was on scene there, and he saw what had occurred and kind of forced me to go to the hospital. And when I got there, they had notified me I had some broken ribs, I guess, from everybody landing on me and stuff.
So it wasn't just your spine, it was your ribs too.
Yeah, but I didn't feel it. What had happened was they did some x-rays and they wanted to do an MRI. And when I pulled my shirt off, I'd noticed this stain, and it was in the center of my back, and that was where the rock hit. And I could have swore I hit on my right shoulder. And when I turned and I looked into the mirror, I had this big bruise right in the center of my back. And you could see where the bruise was running down my spine. And so I was like, okay, that's not good. And they came back and told me that my 3 and 4, something like that, were like, it was really herniated, and that it was pinching off a nerve, and it was sending out all the pain to my shoulder, which is why my shoulder felt like a toothache, like right in the center of it. It was like it just hurt. And unfortunately, we found out throughout this process that my spinal cord had I can't remember what the name was, but it was a little thinned out. And so couldn't do the back surgery. I had to do like physical therapy for a few years, where they would literally put these like electrodes on my back, it'd shock it, and then try to push the discs back in place.
Oh, that sounds very pleasant. That sounds wonderful.
No. Yeah. But so,
Wow.
you know, and I'll be honest, being in law enforcement at that time, you know, not being able to work overtime and stuff like that, you know,
Yeah.
financially, it just wasn't right. And so I had a buddy of mine who was was making a pretty good living doing sales and things of that nature. And so I kind of transitioned out to that. Went to college, didn't graduate. I'm almost done, but went to college and what do you call it? End up opening up a few businesses, do some real estate stuff right now, and have another job. I keep myself pretty busy, but that's my story. I'm sorry I ran it.
It's okay, Dan. Well, it's good to know because, and you probably noticed our channel is a little bit, we're not super religious, but we do, you know, a lot of the things we do, we believe that God leads people in directions. You know, I'm very faith-based, and we have a mentor. She served a tour in Afghanistan, a tour in Iraq. She came back to the United States after her military service and worked in SAR, trying to find indigenous missing women for years. She has a lot of SAR experience. She's helped out many YouTube channels too. And she reached out to us when we started. And we were going through a hard time. We were going through a very hard time. We were getting attacked left and right. As you know, anyone who covers a Someone Wells case comes under attack immediately. It's something about that case. She had a long phone call with her, and she said, you know what? No matter how bad things get in your life, no matter how horrible something happens that changes your life, every single thing that happens, there is a reason. It turns you in a direction you were meant to go in. And I mean, look at what you were talking about earlier. Like, you're going to be traveling to go hopefully solve a cold case, and you never know if your life would have actually gone in that direction had all of this other stuff not happened, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, on one note with that, because I'm also a religious man, one story I like to say really fast. I had an experience once where I was working on the north side of town, and for whatever reason, I think somebody had caught my attention, and I was just kind of like making sure they weren't drunk or following them or whatever. And I passed them out of my area that I was in, went into the middle area of town. And at this point, I was like, they're fine. They turned off, but I couldn't turn around. I ended up going into a third area of town. That was a third district that I wasn't supposed to be in. That was further south than I was supposed to be in. And took the first turn off I could, and so that I can get back to my area, because I had gotten in trouble for leaving my area in the past when like if a major call happened and it was not in my area, but I was a young guy. I wanted to get involved. Well, anyways, I turned into this alley and I find this guy dying in the alley. Like, he is overdosing on the floor. And I get out.
Just by chance, you turned down that alley.
Just by chance, turned down the alley. And guy's dying, turned him over, called in an ambulance. They show up. They hit him with the Narcan. And then my boss gets there. He's like, what are you doing down here? I was like, dude, I don't even know, but I'm getting out of here. And so I do believe, and that to me is one thing that has always stuck with me. And so I believe as well.
It's crazy. Divine intervention, divine timing, whatever you want to call it. It's wild. And Dr. Vona, I am so sorry it took me so long to get to you, but I need to show this real quick. So I've gotten 20 comments so far about how lovely you will look tonight. And I will tell you, there's one thing about you are a very professional, intelligent woman. You have lots more to offer than your looks. We all know that.
Thank you.
But a lot of people are highlighting how lovely you look tonight. So I'm just highlighting
that. Thank you, guys. You know what I think it is? One of my lights are out. So I think maybe my lighting is too bright when I do it. So maybe you guys are talking about divine intervention. God was like, listen here, you got to shut that light out so you could get better. You know what I mean?
Perfect lighting, yes.
There you go. So I think I just got the lighting right finally. That's all. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
So Dr. Vona, I have binged watched your channel over the last week, and I've noticed you've gotten more popular. You're getting asked to be on different channels. You've covered Someone Wells a little more recently, which I'm excited about. For people who have never come across your channel, could you tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm Jamie Vona. I have my bachelor's and master's in counseling psychology, and I have a specialization in marriage and family therapy, and then I have a doctorate in educational leadership. And I did my dissertation on the effects of social media on the identity development of 18 to 24-year-olds. So, and right now I'm trying to get one of my chapters published. So that would be like so amazing. That's like big time when you're in academia. I've been on YouTube since like the summer. I just decided to jump in. I was done my summer class by June and was like, oh, like I had to go down the shore. My daughter's working down there for the summer. I'm like, I need something to do. So I'm like, let me try this YouTube thing. And I love it. So I love it so much. This semester, I'm teaching 10 classes. So I had my classes before I started YouTube. But for next semester, I have like 8, which is like a lot less, believe it or not.
Okay.
But I was able to schedule them differently. So now I'm going to be doing some more from home. So I'll be on YouTube a lot more. So hopefully that's a good thing.
Apparently you're a workaholic, according to the commenters. So
I really am a workaholic. I work Monday through Thursday. I work 8 to 8. That's why. But today I'm giving finals. So I thought I would be done a little bit earlier, but I wasn't. So that's why I felt so bad.
You do have an impressive resume. I think that's why everyone wants your input on a lot of these cases.
Oh, and I forgot the biggest part, you guys. I'm a professor. I'm a research psychologist. I'm a professor, and I've been teaching.
Oh, just that little thing.
Years. I know, but I totally forgot that part. I've been teaching for 22 years at the college and university level.
Yeah. Plenty of experience to offer. And tonight, like we talked about last time, this is going to be really interesting, especially to me, because we've gotten input in the Summer Wells case. I will say this real quick too. This is a disclaimer for everyone. The Wells parents, Summer Wells parents, have been attacked and they've been supported. There's like 50-50. The audience is, you've got half the people who are diehard, they're innocent, leave them alone, stop attacking them. And you've got the other half of the people who are like, they're serving Satan and they need to go to jail right now. Like there's no middle ground. It's like one side or the other. And our channel, Ryan Finds Truth, we've tried really hard, and we do this with every case, is we're trying to help find missing people. And we try not to accuse, if nobody's been charged, then we're not going to accuse them. We'll try to be really careful not to accuse them. However, if we're going to do an analysis on their interviews, and we may get into topics that people are going to assume we're saying that they're innocent or guilty. And I just want to make it very clear to everyone, this is a behavioral science, psychology analysis. This isn't Dr. Vona or any of us saying that they're guilty or innocent. And I have to say that especially now, because we are now, after 2 years of covering this case, never talking to the parents, never having any contact with them. We thought they didn't want to talk to us. We are now talking to them. So I want to be really careful about what we claim to say. And they know that we don't say they're innocent or guilty. They know we're in the middle. But I just want to be careful tonight with taking sides. This is a complete scientific analysis, which you have to be unbiased and fair. And you have to go, we may go either way. We may go in the direction where Dr. Vona says, hey, feels like they're guilty. Well, that's just a scientific analysis. That's not an accusation.
I wouldn't accuse anyway either way.
What's that?
I wouldn't accuse anyway, because I wouldn't know for sure. So I feel like that would be premature.
Agreed. And I was talking to Dan earlier. I wasn't sure where to start. So have you seen the Dr. Phil interview yet, Dr. Vona?
Wait, I'm sorry. I thought you said Dan. What did you say? I apologize.
No, I was talking to Dan earlier. Sorry. Have you seen, Dr. Vona, have you seen the Dr. Phil interview with the parents yet? Is this your first time?
No, I have not seen it. I purposely didn't watch it because I wanted to blind react so that I wasn't coming from a bias.
Good. So this is actually a reaction video then, a Dr. Vona reaction video. I like that.
Very much so.
I think what we're going to do is, the way it was handled on Dr. Phil is, episode 1, he interviewed the parents, but it was, and both Dawn and Candace are on stage, and you'll see this where he's talking to them about what happened. But the behavior panel, a couple of psychology experts, behavioral experts, had done full interviews with Dawn and Candace beforehand. Okay, so I wasn't sure whether I should start with the full interviews or Dr. Phil, and I think I'm going to warm you up first with the Dr. Phil because it's not quite as intense, and it gives you a little taste of their personalities on stage. I think you'll find it fascinating. So I think that's where we're going to start. I did find the full Dawn Wells behavior panel interview, so that's going to be a little longer when we cover that, which is great because I love your insight there. Candace's is very short. I'm just gonna tell you right now, she walked off stage, she just left, and you'll see that happen. So it was a shocker for everybody, and the topic in question when she walked off was also, I would also like to get your input on that, what they were talking about.
Absolutely, I'm down.
Yeah. All right, get started. Let me find the right timestamps. I've got all of them logged here. It starts off with Dr. Phil asking them to tell him about summer. All right.
Before we start, Ryan, I think it's important because I don't know the answer to this, but how long was Summer missing before this interview occurred?
This interview occurred 3 years ago, which would have made it, it was in 2022, I believe. Yep, 2022. So the year after she disappeared is when they had this episode.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, not long after she disappeared. 624. Okay.
One last thing. Had there been a lot of people's opinions made already about the family before this interview took place?
So, and I've said many times, I'm not one of the OGs in the Summer Wells case. So we showed up a little bit after this, end of 2022. But from what I've heard, from day one, there was drama.
Okay.
There were people all over this. YouTube, everything on YouTube, all the drama started immediately with everyone going after the red truck that was cited, going after the Sunday school teacher, Robin. And it was immediate. It was just, the drama was immediate from all the, if you go back and look 4 years ago at all the Summer Wells videos, it's crazy, Dan. It's crazy stuff that went on.
Okay. No, just I only say that because I think it might be important that we understand that these parents may have gone through a certain something with the media by this point, or social media.
Yep.
You know, they may have already gone through the ringer, and I just I didn't know what had occurred prior to this, if they were seen as suspect number one by the public opinion by that point, if there had been other interviews that had been put out there. That may explain certain things. I don't know, because I know you mentioned she walks off. I don't remember that, but
yeah. And I think in Don's full interview with the behavior panel, we may come across that. I think he mentioned YouTubers. They were definitely under pressure. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
First off, tell me about Summer. Candace, you're her mom. Tell me about Summer. What's she like? How did she spend her time mostly?
Playing with the toys.
Yeah. Did she like to play inside, outside?
She liked to be outside most of the time.
Yeah. You have the three boys, and then Summer, she was the youngest.
Yeah.
And how'd she get along with the boys?
She was boss of the boys.
She ran the ran the boys. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of, in watching her run around, she sure had a lot of energy. Was she one that would wander off, chase a butterfly, do something where she would look up and realize she was further away than she thought she might be?
No.
She stuck close to the house?
Close to the house.
Was she a daddy's girl or a mama's girl?
She was a daddy's girl.
Daddy's girl?
Yeah.
There were some vehicles that were seen around the property that day. A red truck, for example, was seen nearby. Did that person ever come forward and identify themselves?
Never did come forward as far as we know.
Do y'all know anybody with a red truck?
No.
So that's the first part where they're talking about Summer. if you like, I can replay it, Dr. Vona, so you can get a closer look at her.
So what's the question about it? What's my initial reaction?
Yeah, just so the way her facial expressions, anything about how they're describing the relationship they have with Summer, anything strike you yet so far?
So just in case anybody else is like picking up on this, she did refer to them in the past tense, but so did Dr. Phil. So I think people need to be aware of that like, even though if he didn't talk in the past tense, I don't know if she would have still answered in the past tense type thing. So if somebody caught that, I would just say, don't jump on that like, oh, that was the past tense, because Dr. Phil asked the question in the past tense. So it makes sense to answer in the past tense. That was the one thing. The other thing I'm noticing here, and I do not know her, is, and again, you guys, everything I say, I am not diagnosing anyone. This is all based off of my expertise and the things that I've studied for years. I see trauma all over her, and I feel like it looks like she gets defensive, but I feel like she has her own trauma. So pre this, and I almost feel like she's like in a state of, she's feeling traumatized, which could be a reason that she walks off eventually, but I don't know.
Yeah, her expression, a lot of people took it as guarded. Did you take it that way?
Sure, but it's also because by this point, it's a year in, so people can't find Summer at this point. So now everybody's pointing their fingers toward them. So she goes to this interview not only knowing that that people are, out for them, but if anybody's ever watched Dr. Phil, you know that if he gets his mind like set on something, he's very like strong and opinionated about it. So she's probably guarded, like, what does Dr. Phil think? Type thing, which I would be too, whether I was guilty or not guilty, because
yeah, that's a good point.
That's what I'm saying. So I feel like Dr. Phil is he's very intense to begin with. So she's probably also guarded for that reason.
To me, I think she looks very much guarded. Look at her shoulder, look at her face. She's not looking straight at him. She's looking at the side, so she's not opening up her face or her body towards him. She's very much guarded. To what Dr. Vona says about the trauma aspect, I think that there is some trauma here. I think that, could it be from Don? Could it be from social media? The attacks on her, which is what I'm assuming.
I mean, even for that, I'm talking back, like I'm talking trauma.
Right. No, and I think that there's the possibility of that. I don't know. You're the doctor. But to me, like, didn't she feel like I think what Chris McDonough interview room has done a lot of great work, but had that already occurred before this? That had he already done his interviews?
The behavioral panel. So you're probably, I think I see where you're going. She probably knew the effects that would have on this interview because she had already done the behavioral panel. Yeah.
Not necessarily the effects, but it sounded like I've only seen a few bits and pieces, so I don't know, and I don't want to comment too far, but if she trusted Chris McDonough and then felt betrayed by Chris McDonough, based on the content that he put, she got interviewed, she talked to him, and then gets betrayed. Could that be the guardedness? Like, all right, I already trusted one guy, I told him this, and then they turned everything I said. Which I'm not saying that that's what Chris McDonough did. I'm not saying that one bit. I think all the work that he has done in the interview room is great, but from her point of view, from her perspective, could that be a reason why she feels so guarded? Because she may have already felt betrayed by somebody else that she reached out for help.
Most likely by this point, and it kept on happening. You are right. By now, if you fast forward to 2025, they won't even talk to most YouTubers because they've been betrayed by people that they've reached out to, thought would help them. Then that's happened over and over and over. People have just contacted them for content and ended up stabbing them in the back and, making a whole lot of clicks and views off of them. So yeah, that definitely started day one, and that could be part of it. You could be right. One thing I was wondering, Dr. Vona, so I know nothing about diagnosing anything for anybody, but we do have a daughter who has a mild, she thinks she has a mild form of autism, which is like, our daughter doesn't have a whole lot of facial expressions. When she's happy, we don't know. When she's sad, we don't know. You know what I mean? It's very she's got this blank. And I was wondering if even in this little clip, when she's talking,
Might be.
No,
She stuck close to
she's
the
still
house.
close to the house.
Was she a daddy's girl?
do you see any sign at all of that in Candace? Does she reflect
So-
any kind?
The hard thing about that is when it comes to autism, there is such specific and like extensive testing that one goes through. So they go through cognitive testing, but there's also neurological testing that's done today. So to just know from like a brief few seconds from an interview, I wouldn't be able to tell. That would be totally
Okay. Yeah.
speculation. But I do think that now that you said it, I will, look out for if I see anything. But I mean, so far, I don't think I could really tell from the
Okay.
amount of time I've seen.
Yeah. That's one thing I noticed, and I've seen her, we've met her in person, and that's one thing we always notice is very little emotion reflected most of the time.
So Travis says flat affect, and that's the name of the symptom. It is flat affect. So when you can't tell, so Travis, you're right about that.
Yeah.
The thing is that flat affect is a symptom of many disorders. So it could be a symptom of schizophrenia. And again, I'm not saying this is what she has. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it could be a symptom of many different things. So I would just be speculating if I picked something and said da da da.
Okay.
It's this. Do you see what I mean?
That's fair. And I think I'll be interested once we get through this, once you see more of her interview, if you have more input or more thoughts on that aspect of it, because that's one thing we've always noticed. Okay, let's continue on. We were at 7:48.
Also, abuse, your own childhood abuse. Again, I don't know if she's had any, but that can also cause the flat affect. So like, there's just so many different things that can cause flat affect.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't want to share too much, but from the people who we know who knew her and learned about her past, she absolutely has had past trauma in her childhood. 100%.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anybody
No.
with a red
No.
truck?
Oh, no.
Statistics tell us that when children are abducted,
By the way, you can have me pause anytime. Just let me know. This
I'll put my
section
hand up
is,
or whatever. I'll do like a hands up type thing.
yeah, because this section is about a minute or so. So feel free to just pause and give your thoughts.
or molested, or in any way victimized, it's very seldom by strangers. It's a friend of the family, a family member. It's somebody that has access to the family. Do you have any idea, any concept of anybody that would have had knowledge of your property, how to get down that road, how to do anything that and I'm not asking you to name somebody here, but is there anybody that comes to mind that might have seen some or targeted her in some way?
Not that we know of. We've been thinking about that constantly, constantly. It's just trying to think.
Candace, is there anybody that made you uncomfortable, just the way they...
By the way, I got to throw in there, he does this multiple times. Don will try to answer, and Dr. Phil constantly goes, Candace, what do you think?
So that tells me that Dr. Phil sees like a controlling factor in Dom, that he feels like he needs to step in and be like I'm asking her a question, she can answer. I noticed that right away too.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting, and I think it happens again a little later too.
looked at her or were around her?
Nobody that I'm aware of.
I'm sorry?
Nobody that I'm aware of.
I've been involved in a lot of the...
And then he
What'd you
talks
say?
about, he goes on to talk about other stuff. And, do you
No
have any
one I'm
questions?
aware of.
Oh,
Yeah.
not that I'm aware of. Okay.
Yeah.
To me, I think that, I see that as well, but I think he also is trying to get something out of Candace, which I think everybody is, especially at this point, would agree that Candace would have the most information if there's information to have. She was the last one with her. And so I think that's the other aspect too. He wants to get her to talk so he can get what she knows out. And he can't do that with Dawn answering for her.
Agreed. And in later years, like right now, she won't even do media. And I think it might be related to what happened on Dr. Phil. She won't get in front of the camera. Dawn is always the person now who's kind of the mouthpiece for the family, which is also interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yep. I have to switch to another video because so these channels did the whole episode and then they did this copyright thing where they started playing music halfway through. So I've got to switch to another channel that lets me keep playing it, but we'll continue on. Let's see. I think they move on to, they start talking about CPS, I think, in this point.
If my picture goes off while we're talking, it's because I'm taking a drink, but I'm still here.
That's okay.
I just wanted to tell you so nobody thinks I like my internet went out.
Yeah. All right.
For the father and the mother. And I looked at that, not knowing y'all at all, just to look at it. And given the timeline, there's no way that either one of y'all did harm to your daughter and I hate to even say these words, killed your daughter and hid her body in the woods somewhere. I just don't believe that's even possible.
So Dan, I'm curious from your opinion, having potentially, if you've interrogated people, do you think he's being sincere or do you think he's trying to get their guard down in this situation here?
You know, it depends. It could go either way. You know, it depends on how the interview is going. It depends on what information he actually does have. You know, can it be used as a tactic to get somebody to lower their guard? Yeah, 100% it can be. You know, it's a tactic I've used when I've talked to people that I've investigated before. Like, hey, you know, I don't think you did anything. I know it was your friend. Just tell us the truth, or whatever the case may be. You know, your friend saying this. You know. So lying per se it is a tactic. I don't know if he's doing that here or not.
Can I add to that? So I think we also have to remember that Dr. Phil isn't, he's not a detective, right? So he's a psychologist. So in my opinion, if I was playing poker and I had to guess, I would say this is a tactic. And I know we'll figure it out because towards the end of the video, if he starts to be a little bit more like going after the parents, then this was a tactic.
Yeah, it
so
felt
like if he
that way.
gets more critical as the episode goes on, then this is a tactic to make them feel comfortable now so that later he could be more harsh, in my opinion.
That's what I felt when I was watching this. I'm like, you know, Dr. Phil, he's going to go after them one way or another. He's going to try to dig. And I felt like this was, hey, look, I'm on your side kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like to me, but I was just curious.
And that was just my opinion.
Yeah.
I will say though, like, you know, if he did believe that they didn't do anything, I mean, he would also say that. So,
no, I just mean right here, like,
no.
which anybody would do. I think it's a smart thing to do. Why would you want to go in there and make somebody defensive from the beginning? That's really not going to help you as an interviewer either way. So I think that, I think it's just like a normal tactic that most people would use in the situation.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I wasn't saying anything like that. I was just saying like we do got to keep our like mind open to the possibility that Dr. Phil does have some information and evidence and stuff like, you know, they got their sources, they got their things. They can, you know, Dr. Phil calls, you know, and speaks to his local cop and they're starstruck. Yeah. What information do you want to know? and so, you know, that gets the ball going. And I'm sure him and his investigative team do have some information, maybe even some information that's not out there. And so just to take that with a grain, you know, I don't know at this point with what he's saying, but yeah, it could go either way right now.
And I'll be honest with you too, having watched this a million times, he does clarify a little later. You notice his exact wording is, I don't believe you had any direct involvement and you didn't do something.
Right.
Later on, he clarifies a little bit when he starts digging, which is interesting too. I think I included that here. Part of the read technique. What's the read technique, Dr. Vaughn? Do you know?
It's not a psychological technique. It's a technique that's used in investigation, and I believe they did it in the Chris Watts case. That's the only reason I even know what it is. I actually don't. I don't want to say exactly because I really. But do you know, Dan? It's a police tactic.
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay.
To be honest with you, but you know, in law enforcement, it's a common practice to when you're in a situation to kind of like Dr. Vona said, you don't want to go in there. You know, it varies on the person, obviously. You know, some persons, you know, you want to get them riled up, you want to get them mad because, you know, then they might, you know, just say something, you know, out of frustration. Some other folks, you want to get them on your side. Some other folks, you want them to think that you believe them, you know, whatever gets them talking. Brian Koberger is a great example of that. You know, they talked to him for hours on small talk before they actually started to interrogate him. And immediately he lawyered up. But that tactic was done because, well, they were aware of his background in his law enforcement and, I mean, not his law enforcement background, but his studies in criminal justice and interrogation. And so they wanted to get him talking and get him going and trustworthy. You know, they probably Mirandized them early on and we're hoping that a hour of conversation might get him away from, you know, asking for a lawyer when they start getting into some tougher questions. But he didn't fall for it.
And that person was right. Any good interviewer uses open-ended questions. I know that from research. We don't ever ask questions that have dichotomous answers. So you don't want a yes or no answer because then you don't really get anything from that. So by asking a question like, can you give me a time that, or when has, where has, you now keep it open for the person to give you a much more detailed or descriptive answer. Somebody says the read technique is the only legal way to interrogate. Some say it's the best. It doesn't. Someone tell us what it is, though, because it's on the tip of my tongue. And if someone starts to say it, I know it'll come back to me.
I'll be honest with you guys. I've watched thanks to Jen, she loves true crime. I've watched so many of those police interrogation videos. If police ever brought me into an interrogation room, my first words would be, I'd like my lawyer. I plead the fifth. I wouldn't say a word. Yeah. Innocent or not, you know what I mean? It's like crazy.
Could it be the thing that, because I'm trying to remember from the Watts case where the detective says, like, come on, Chris, I know that maybe Shanann did it. Like, just so she winds up taking on the idea that, like, we know you didn't do it. It was probably an accident if something happened. Like, just tell us. So she already knew in her head that she thought that he did something, but she was trying to give him an out so that he would feel like he could come forth with it. So
the read technique, and this is from Google, is a controversial multi-step interrogation method developed in the 50s, focusing on breaking a suspect's resistance through psychological pressure, confrontation with false evidence, offering justification, and isolating them to elicit confessions. But it's criticized for potentially causing false confessions, especially from vulnerable individuals. Now, so I've law enforcement, I don't want to give any secrets away, but I've had scenarios where we've arrested a guy and we got to get elicit a confession from him. And you walk in there and you have this manila folder that says evidence and you have a bunch of paperwork in there. And you just sit it right there. Even put DVD on the top of it that says surveillance. There's nothing on it. It's blank. You just put it there and you just, sometimes you leave it there, walk out of the interrogation room. Let the suspect see it, just kind of let it soak in. All right, what do they have? They have me on a camera. They have this, they have that. And then you come back and then you talk to them when they're all nice and worried about what it is that you know. And then the other thing that it does is it gets them curious about what it is that you know. It's curiosity killed the cat. And that's what you want to do in those scenarios. You want them to ask, to want to know what it is that law enforcement knows. And then you want them to slip up during that process. Yeah.
And one thing I have learned, again, watching those videos that Jen loves, is police they'll lie to you flat out. They will do like tactics like you just said. And I don't know if I would believe a police officer no matter what he tells me in an interrogation room. I just wouldn't believe him. Like, I have witnesses who've seen you at the crime. I'd be like, yeah, right.
Yeah. So It's funny you say that because Dan, don't I always say, I'm always like, Daniel, what if somebody said like, Jamie, Dan told me that you da 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 da. I always say that. So this obviously does fit psychological, like the way that somebody that's psychologically looking at it would do. If I was a cop, I would say that. I would be like, Dan, Ryan already told me, like he told me everything. You might as well just tell me first. So that,
Right.
and it's like, if you're good at it, I guess I could see why it works, but I could also see that if you're good at it, why it could cause a false confession or false information too.
It can. You know, I had a guy one time that I arrested, or I didn't arrest him. I detained him. He hadn't been arrested yet. So long story short, there was like a vehicle had passed me up. There were two vehicles that were racing. I lit them up, pulled them over. But I kind of lost sight of them at one point. And I pulled one of the vehicles over at a gas station, and I'm talking to the guy, and I could have swore it was the same car. And he's like, it wasn't me. And I was like, nah, man, we saw you. And I don't remember what it was. I think I told him I have a camera on my vehicle that captured the license plate or something of that nature. And I said, look, we already got you. I just want to know why you ran from me. And he's like, oh man, I just got scared and this, that, and the third. I was literally about to hook him up when somebody on the radio, the guy that did run from me, crashed a couple blocks away.
Oh my gosh.
And this dude's like, yeah, you know,
he was ready to confess.
He was ready. He already told me it was him, you know, and this was like really, really long time ago. So the only thing that I remember telling him was like, I have you on my camera, on my dash cam, and I have a picture of your license plate. So I know it was you. And he was like, when I told him that, he was like, oh, all right, man. I was just like, all right. And so those things, you know, do those things happen? Yes. You know, and that's why you also have to tie in evidence. You know, just because somebody says something doesn't necessarily mean what they're saying is true, accurate, or indifferent, especially if you're talking to somebody vulnerable, like it mentioned. And this person here that I was talking to, he, I mean, I didn't think of him as a vulnerable person. I think he just, at the end of the day, I think he had a lot of problems with law enforcement. He was, he had been arrested a couple of times, and I think maybe that may have played a role. He was just like, I ain't going to fight this.
Well, that goes back to what Dr. Vona just said. Like that tactic can create false information too, right? They can falsely confess because they're like, well, they've got me, I might as well confess, even though they don't remember doing it. That's just crazy. I did want to mention real quick, Acting Badly made a really good point, and this is exactly what I thought when I saw Dr. Phil make this statement. I felt like it was untrue as well. He said the timeline doesn't work. I believe you're innocent. There was, in my opinion, there was ample time for the crime to take place. And so that's why I thought, oh no, he's got some tactic going on here, because there's no way he can say the 3.5 hours no one knows anything happened, that the crime couldn't take place in that time. It really shocked me to hear him say that.
Yeah, me too.
The only thing that I thought of, that if he's being accurate, and it goes back to what I had said earlier, does he have some inside information about something? Because I personally think that law enforcement do have a timeline, a much narrow one. If things went down the way Candace and Dawn say they did, right? You should see some things happening when Candace realizes that Summer's missing. And what I'm talking about is her cell phone. So they turned in their phones and things of that nature. Now I know that Dawn says that their phones got deleted or something of that nature, but there's only so much you can delete, and you can't really delete your GPS history and stuff like that. And so if I'm investigating this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Cellbrite to look at the cell phones to determine when did the cell phone start to show a sign of panic? When did it start moving around? Now I know that some people say maybe she was using her mom's. I'm hoping they grabbed her mom's phone to see that as well. You know, also Don, he was apparently an hour away, and he had utilized his cell phone throughout the day. And so to me, I'm fairly positive that law enforcement, I don't know about Dr. Phil, but law enforcement should have a much narrower timeline than what they probably are giving out to the public.
Probably. I don't know that Dr. Phil would know that information. I could be wrong, but like you were saying before, I mean, you could call and somebody could be starstruck, so they could, but I don't know. I would think that the cops know even more than Dr. Phil would, but I'm not sure, because we also have to remember this is a TV show, so we have to make it a little bit like dramatic so that people tune in type thing. So, and we know that at the time it was very controversial then, just like it is now, to pick a side either way. So the fact that Dr. Phil says it here and then somebody says in chat that later on he says that he thinks Candace knows more than what she's saying, that just says right there that he is using this as a way to get them to open up more, because he goes harder on them as the time goes on.
I do. I think that's what he was doing, and that's exactly he implies later that he literally comes right out. You'll see. I believe I included that here where he just says, "I think you know more. I think you know more," and then he starts digging. So you'll see that in a minute. I don't know if it's right after this, but we'll get back to the video here and about another minute left here, and then we can stop again.
Stan, I'm not sitting here wondering if you killed your daughter. Awesome. I'm not sitting here wondering if you killed your daughter.
Thank you.
I don't think that for a second. And I'm saying that publicly here. So if people are wondering what I think, that's what I think. I don't think you did that. I don't think you did that. And I assume I'm correct about that.
Yes.
You didn't do anything to hurt your daughter.
No, sir.
So it's funny. He goes, "I believe you didn't do anything," and then he immediately goes, "You didn't do anything to hurt your daughter, right?" Which to me was interesting. Like, he just said he doesn't believe it, but then he goes ahead and asks her, which was kind of revealing too.
He does that, and he goes even a step further, and he says, and like you just said, but he says it on like two other things too. He's like, because that's my position, because you wouldn't do anything to hurt her, right? Right. So I feel like he was trying to see her reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, he even got pretty close. He leaned into her too to see what her reaction would be.
Body language tells a lot, doesn't it? It's fascinating to watch.
You didn't do anything to hurt your daughter. Did he do anything to hurt your daughter?
No, sir.
Did she do anything to hurt your daughter?
I'll say this.
And the reason that
Don is totally buying everything that Dr. Phil is saying.
Oh, he loves it.
Candace ain't. Candace isn't. To me, that's my reaction, is that Don is like, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, somebody believes me," and Candace is like, "I don't know about this. I've heard this."
Which
before.
means that, which to me, as in psychology, that would mean to me that that Don maybe lacks that insight that Candace has here. That somebody else. This is the thing. If somebody, and I don't know Don well enough, but if he is, and again, I know people are probably going to be like, "Oh, she always talks about personality disorders," but the truth is, when we're talking about these crimes, a lot of the players in them often do have personality disorders. But let's say Don in some way has antisocial personality, or what people know as like psychopathy, then he wouldn't know. He would think that Dr. Phil, he would take him for his word there, and like you said, he would be like, "Oh, he believes me," where Candace is like a little bit more hesitant about that. So I'm curious to see how Don continues to act as it goes on.
Yep, it's fascinating.
Interesting.
I can conclude that is based on the timeline, is you couldn't have done that and hidden the body somewhere that couldn't have been found by now. Cadaver dogs, hunting dogs, search parties, all of that.
FYI, just so you know, I mean, if 3.5 hours, you can easily get from where we know the scent dogs stopped at the base of the driveway. You can easily get from there through the woods, and we know the path people can take to get outside the 5-mile radius that they searched. So what he's saying here is blatantly false, which again leads me to go on the side that he's just saying this as a tactic, because he has to know that it's perfectly possible in 3.5 hours to pull off hiding Summer from the searchers. So it was weird. I don't know, hearing him say this. Again, what Dan says though is maybe he knows more than we do. I don't know.
I'm sure.
But what if they have her entire time accounted for?
Candace's?
Maybe, and I'm talking about law enforcement. Like, if she had a cell phone on her, whether it be hers or her mom's phone, and there shows movement, there shows signs of it not just being stationary for a long period of time, how then would you be able to account for her leaving the property and hiding the body outside of the property?
But that would
Yeah.
be assuming she had her cell phone, right?
If she had her cell phone.
Right. I mean, I'm assuming that she did.
Well, I mean, I would think that if somebody was gonna, but then again, we see dumb criminals all the time. But I'm thinking, like, wouldn't you think that through first, or no? Maybe not.
If it's premeditated, if this is a premeditated crime, in premeditation, there's a lot of forethought. But when it comes to parents committing a crime or the loss of a child due to the parents' actions, it's usually not a premeditated thing. Not saying that premeditated murders don't happen amongst parents, but it's typically either an accident, the kid got into something that they shouldn't have. A parent lost control or got into drugs and rage took over. Those are all situations of the moment. And when you have those type of in the moment crimes, the lack of evidence, isn't really a situation. There should be, because of the lack of premeditation, because of the lack of planning, because of the lack of those things. Now, that's if it was, like I mentioned, a lot of people say that maybe she dry drowned. Maybe there was an accident. Maybe she got into something. Maybe somebody physically hurt her. Those all things kind of come from crimes of in the moment. And so I'm just kind of wondering about that aspect. Like, what if her entire time, those 3 hours, are counted? That, maybe it doesn't show like what exactly she was doing on the property, but it doesn't show her leaving it.
What about having alternative phones, though? I don't think we put enough on that. I mean, where I'm from in Philly, a lot of people have like phones, like shady phones, where you cheat on your spouse with type thing. So it's not usually used for like, something, or for even like rugs and stuff like that. People use it. So it's not uncommon for people to have other phones. How would we know that she gave the police all of her contact stuff?
Well, I mean, that would probably be discovered under a couple of different ways. Financial records, because you still got to pay for the phone, you still got to pay for the minutes. And if you're utilizing it through just the Wi-Fi of your home that's connecting to a router, and there's a digital footprint there to determine that aspect, especially if you're in a scenario or a situation where there's not a lot of service involved there, again, you're gonna have to connect to something. And so there's those aspects of it. And I'll be 110% honest with you, not very many people use burner phones for drugs. Now, if they're like a drug mule and they're doing those type of things, then yeah, but usually people are buying drugs from their buddies and their friends. They get a hookup.
Around here, Daniel, everybody's got a phone for rugs. I'm telling you.
Oh, burner phones. Oh, yeah. Burner phones. I believe it 100%. Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, there's still, you got to buy minutes for it. You got to purchase things. You got to purchase the phone. You have to have the phone. The phone has to have internet if you don't have the minutes. There's a lot of things. And then plus, again, if her regular cell phone is moving around, I mean, even if she had a burner phone, her regular phone would account her there if it shows movement, which is all I'm saying. I'm not saying it does show movement. For all I know, it may not.
So Dan, just to give you a little insight, I think it does. And some of the locals here in chat are screaming at me. They're just saying the same things over and over, because this is one thing I should help you guys with too, is a lot of this background. People have figured out what she was up to, and what was going on, not enforcement, but through locals asking around. And there's two things that are really important here. People have said multiple times. Service is spotty up in Ben Hill. If I drive up there today with the Jeep, there's huge blocks of areas where I'll lose all signal. There's no tracking anything. Although you make a good point with GPS. They can probably track GPS. But cell service disappears in some of these areas. The other thing too, it's really important. Somebody mentioned it here. There are people, I know someone in particular, someone I trust, who's talked to a gas station, for example. It's about 20 minutes away on Sullivan Gardens Parkway, and the clerk at 5:30 said they saw Candace going into the gas station, which tells us probably law enforcement knows she was at that location at 5:30. Other people around 6 or 6:30. I know when Andy pulled in at 6:30 or so, he met Candace there. So she was at the property, but not through the entire, if you believe these witness statements, she was also running around all over the place. One person said they saw her at Light Hollow Road. So she wasn't always on the property. She was running around, and I hope you're right, Dan, that law enforcement has been able to track her and knows where she was, because I don't believe she was at the property the entire time during the 3.5 hours, the block of the window where nobody knows what happened.
So to me, it wouldn't be very difficult to figure that out for law enforcement to know that. Now, will law enforcement disclose that information? Probably not.
Right.
But to me, it would not be very difficult. Yeah, advanced timing records is what you're referring to when it comes to losing signal. That's with the triangulation stuff. When you have somebody's phone, there's a GPS chip inside of it. Now, that chip is what's going to be able to determine where the person is within a matter of a 3-meter accuracy. And so they're going to be able to know exactly where that phone went, when it wasn't, if it moved. Phones, especially nowadays, you can tell, Cellbrite can get into them and they'll be able to tell whether or not the phone was in landscape mode, if it turned over to portrait, if the phone was upside down. I mean, there's so much information that can come out of those cell phones.
Actually, someone here makes a good point, Dan. Does the phone have to be actively connected to the satellite? Like, does the person have to have that feature turned on for law enforcement to be able to track their GPS position?
I don't know, but I know that for Brian Koberger, he tried to do this and law enforcement saw the evidence all over it. They were able to, the lack of evidence is evidence on its own. So if you were to go into the phone, it's not just that, you're going to see this history missing and this data missing during a specific time that a crime occurred or a possible crime had occurred. That's it. That is huge circumstantial evidence towards a crime. And I mean, I don't know, about this case, if they've turned it into like a criminal investigation or if this is still a missing persons investigation. But if there was these deletions in time or deletions on their phone like that, that's evidence of a crime, that of at least the cover up aspect of a crime. And so, it wouldn't be very difficult. It wouldn't be very difficult to figure it out and to have them arrested. I mean, I know a lot of people say, well, it's because they don't have a body or those type of things, but you don't necessarily need a body to make an arrest. You just have to have the evidence of the crime to have been committed. And like Emmanuel Haro is a great example of that. A little boy out in California who went missing. Parents tried to come up with some bogus story that somebody came up to him and hit the mom and then stole the kid. And now the father's been, he's already pled guilty. And so they've never found his remains, or a murder scene or any of those things. So to my knowledge, at least. So I just feel that law enforcement should know the answers to these questions.
It's interesting. I never thought about what you said either, that lack of evidence is circumstantial evidence. If they turned off their phone, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. And so in this scenario, and I think somebody mentioned it too, like the Gilgo Beach serial killer, Rex Humerman, he utilized cell phone data or burner phones to taunt the victims of his family members. Once they figured out who he was, they were able to track down those purchases, track down the phones, and in fact, have a video of him going into the store and purchasing the burner phones. And so there's always a digital trail. There's always a trail.
The thing is, that would be assuming that they had the phone. That's all I was saying. Like, that would be assuming that they had it. If they never, let's say I have a burner phone and I was able to like throw it in the river before you ever asked me for my phone. Then
but they found Rex Humerman's without. I don't think they had his.
Well, no, he got caught eating pizza so they were able to do a search warrant right there. So I think they got his because they happened to be able to arrest him with a search warrant and they got it. But I'm saying, what if let's just say, I'm not saying this happened here. I'm just saying, I'm thinking of the people in my neighborhood, what they would do. Before they called 911, they would have gotten rid of that burner phone. That's all. I'm just trying to think like a criminal. That's all.
Right, but thinking about it through the lens of law enforcement, it wouldn't be very difficult to uncover the purchase or the
I
use
hope
of,
not.
of a burner phone, especially in their area. Now, I'm assuming they, I don't know if you know the answer to this, Ryan. Do they have like some sort of internet service at Don's house?
So yes, because I know they've been on YouTube plenty of times, so they obviously have internet service. But they've always said cell phone service is spotty. So
Well, I'm just wondering if they're connected to like a router or something like that, and especially if cell service is spotty. So if you have a burner phone, your service isn't going to be better. Usually it's worse
Did
on
they
those burner
collect the
phones.
grandmom's phone?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. It's a good question.
Because
I
if
would
they
have.
used grandmom's phone, I would have too. I would hope so, but I don't know if they did.
I've only heard of specific people mentioning they got their phone dipped, and that's Hunter had his phone taken away. Hunter's the juvenile who was with them that day, and then Fred Hill, the neighbor, had his phone dipped. Those are the only two I know about.
No, poor Fred, the one that I called the panty dropper. I do want to publicly apologize to him. I felt
So
bad after I said that.
Yeah,
so if they're taking their phones, if they're taking Fred's phone and they're taking Hunter's phone, I'm like 99% positive they're taking somebody who was on the property during the time of the disappearance.
yeah,
You get what I'm saying? It just doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense not to.
yeah.
I didn't know they
Misdemeanor
took the other kid's phone.
dipped means they essentially take an image. Or if you're not into IT, that's like taking a snapshot of everything on the phone. They take a complete mirror image of everything on the phone.
Oh, like a forensic download.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, let's see. We have 15 more seconds on this section, and then we'll move on to the next section here.
You couldn't have gotten far enough away before authorities and search parties and everybody got in there. The question that I'm then left with is, do you know something about it that you haven't shared?
There's the drop, right? There's where he dropped the next question. And so the next section here is where he continues on that veil. So this is where you see him start digging in a little more. Like this to me was really interesting because now he's starting to dig into, okay, I think you didn't have direct involvement, but you know something. 1826.
Which is a way of him not being a liar, that he says that he doesn't believe she did anything.
Yeah, it was subtle, but it was still to me a very tricky tactic. It was tricky, Okay, here we go.
Know something about it that you haven't shared, something you may not even know you know. You may not, there may be something in your mind you don't even know you know, or you may know something that you haven't chosen to speculate about, or you haven't chosen to tell. And that's what I'm really focused on right now, because you're in the best position to know what could have happened. If you had to speculate, what do you think happened?
I have no idea what happened.
Well,
I don't.
you have to have some idea, because you took your daughter in the house and you never saw her come out.
Right.
Something happened.
I don't know what happened. She just was gone.
But she didn't just vaporize. Someone had to take her out of that house. And we know it wasn't you. We know you didn't do anything to her.
Right.
So is he backpedaling now? He pushed a little hard and now he's backpedaling, right? He's like, but we know it wasn't you. I'm just.
So that's
do you
that
think that
technique.
What's that?
That's that technique that I was saying with Chris Watts too. He's doing exactly that. So it's like, I know it wasn't you, so just tell us who it was, or it was an accident. Like, so it's almost a way of giving somebody a way not to rationalize it, but to not feel as guilty for it, so that maybe you'll say something, is what I'm feeling here.
It kind of reminds me of like what I said earlier, where you say, hey, and you kind of mentioned it too, Ryan, where you said, I wouldn't believe anything that law enforcement told me if I was in an interrogation room and they said something, your buddy said this, and you say, yeah, right. What I would tell you is like, well, let's see what your buddy believes about what you may have said. Because whoever gives it up first is the one getting the deal, right? And then I start to walk out the door, making you feel like, oh, if I don't say something, my buddy might go say something. And if he says something, he might blame it on me, trying to get a deal.
Yeah.
And so that's how that circle works.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you feel like her reaction here, the way she responded right here?
Have some idea because you took your daughter in the house and you never saw her come out.
Right.
Something happened.
I don't know what happened. She just was gone.
That response to me, like, I don't know. Do you get anything from her, the way she's acting at this moment? Is she manipulating, covering up, lying, or can you not really tell at this moment?
What I get from here is the lack of what I get, right? So we're not seeing the whole picture. We can't see everyone's faces at the same time, which is one of the things I would like to do. I would like to see, how does Don react to some of these questions? I noticed they're holding hands, her and Don. Could there be more of a squeeze action when I want, like, there's just so many things. And I'm not saying there is, but I'm just saying by seeing a bigger picture, we would get a better understanding. Also editing. How do I know when this was edited or how they edited it? What if this was edited to where this is her reaction to a different question? I don't want that to be 100%. So I would be just thinking critical and just ask all these questions. But let's just say everybody said, yes, this is exactly the way you see it. I would say, no, I'm not getting here that she's being manipulative. Okay. If anything, I'm getting that Don's manipulating her in some way, even if it's not like anything nefarious in this way, but just he's overpowering. And again, if she has trauma from her past, it would make sense of why she would be with somebody like Don that could protect her. You said earlier she doesn't do any more interviews and stuff. Don does the interviews. But that's because even with my husband, if I don't want someone to take advantage of me on the phone, I get him to call because I know that they're only going to get so far with him and he'll be like, all right, enough. Where with me, I'll be like, oh, I feel bad. And da-da. So it's like, so in a way I can relate, not on an abusive way, but like in the way of, so I'm just saying, I don't want people to be like, oh, she's saying this or that. I'm just saying, as far as human behavior, I don't know if he's holding her hand, what he's doing, what they talked about beforehand, what their dynamic is. I have so many questions.
See, for me, it sounded like for the first time in this entire interview, she dropped a little bit of her guard. You know, there was a little bit of a little thing in her voice. I have, like, you know, a little almost trying to hold back some emotion there. You know, when she says she's gone. And to me, I think everything up to this point has been 100% guarded. I'm not saying she dropped it all the way down. As you can see, her shoulder's still up, but her jaw's a little bit lower. You know, it was a little bit tighter earlier. Her face looks like it's longer, like her jaw dropped, and almost like there's more of a saddening emotion, in my opinion, from what I see from her in that moment when she said that her daughter was gone. Does it mean anything nefarious or anything like that to me, or one way or the other? Don't know. But to me, that's what I gathered for the first time in this interview. It seemed like for a second there, like she wasn't as guarded. I'm not going to say she dropped the guard completely because, you know, you look at her shoulder, look at her face, look at the direction of her eyes. She's not facing him directly. She's still closed off to him. She still has her shoulder up, somewhat blocking her face. And so, you know, all those things still kind of indicate to me that there's also a lack of trust, you know, with who she's talking to, and she's not buying what he's saying as far as the belief aspect, you know, that, you know, Don, he's looking straight at him, smiling like, oh, thank you. That's awesome. Appreciate you, you know, believing me. And to a certain extent, I think that kind of also felt like he's looking for somebody to believe him because there's so many people that don't. And, you know, it could be worse, could be more, but that was my first impression of all those two things. And then kind of seeing this here. I
agree with you, Dan, 100%, because you have to remember too, where these two live, in what we call the holler, they look at a guy like Dr. Phil, who's sitting there in a perfectly pressed suit, right? He's the city guy. He's a, you know, he talks a certain way. And she's probably looking at this guy like he's manipulative. He's trying to get to me. She's very vulnerable. Absolutely. And she's very guarded. I can tell. And it does look like she's about to cry. A lot of people said at this moment, she looks like she's starting to feel under attack. Do you agree, Dr. Vona? Is that kind of the impression you get from this moment?
I could see why people are saying that. Deborah Truax gets an A right now. So Deborah says, I think she was promised compassion and hope, but then got interrogated anyway. And I think that's what might be happening here. She almost looks disappointed. Like to me, it's almost like she's looking at Dr. Phil like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So almost like I almost trusted you. And like, so when I just read that from Deborah, that's 100% what I'm getting here too.
Yep.
So that would go back to, so then what is the sadness coming from? Is it coming from the loss of my daughter, or is it coming from the loss of the hope that I was promised before I got on the stage, and now I just feel attacked again because of my own past trauma? So I really don't know the answer between those two, but absolutely, that's what I'm getting.
Okay.
That's perfect, Dr. Vona, because I think she kind of says that in a little bit.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
But she didn't just vaporize. Someone had to take her out of that house. And we know it wasn't you. We know you didn't do anything to her.
Right.
So if it wasn't you, then who was it? Let's rule you out.
Sorry to stop.
Okay, we've taken you off the chessboard.
Sorry, I caught something. So you know how I just said that I felt like she was looking at Dr. Phil, what the hell are you doing? I think that's why he says, we know it wasn't you. I think he also feels that. And that's his way of being like, relax, I know it wasn't you. Just go with me. Trust me here. Which would also be a form of manipulation on Dr. Phil's part.
I agree. He's not to be mean to Dr. Phil, but every interview I watch, I always think, man, he's like master manipulator. He really is.
And her response too of right and kind of pushed back a little bit, kind of like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? That was the sense that I got.
Yep.
Well, you're off the table. If it wasn't you, then who would be the next most likely candidate?
I don't know. I wish I knew.
Would it be someone, a stranger? Would it be somebody you know?
I don't know anybody that would have did it. It hadn't been a stranger.
Is there anybody you knew that has disappeared since this happened?
No.
That, you know, they were around and then this happened and all of a sudden they kind of moved away or they've gone away somewhere?
Oh, nobody that I know of.
The only people that I know is the people I work with on a daily basis, and that's the only ones I've ever hung out with. I work all the time, and when I am home, I'm with my kids and her. And
is there anybody that you've had dealings with that are shady that would do something revenge-wise just to get back at you, to hurt you, that you owe money or that?
So they get into the, I think this is where we're getting into the cornbread mafia question, which we'll get to. But that moment, you did see that, you mentioned Dr. Vona, you wanted to see sort of the angle to see how they're, now look at Dawn now. All of a sudden now
say,
there's,
do you notice? Yes.
He's comforting, right?
Yeah, so this is to me classic. So Candace is looking at Dr. Phil like, I thought you were going to help me here, and now you're like coming at me. And by Don putting his arm on her shoulder, he's saying, don't worry, I got your back. I'm going to take care of it, which then goes back to when we're home. It's almost like that feeling of, can I do this without you? Because I need that protection. So it's like, then what would you put up with after that? So if I feel like I need you to protect me when I need protection, what am I willing to put up with to have that?
That's an interesting insight.
It's just insight. It doesn't mean that it's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, their relationship is something that I've struggled with because I've heard through the years, you know, there've been, you know, she reported him at one point for domestic violence, and then,
well, there you go. So now I'm even more sure of what I just said.
Well, and then, yeah, no, it's been on and off, and then she takes it back. He never actually fully got arrested. She withdrew her claim, and he went back home.
That's so normal. That happens all the time.
Yep.
So all the time. I'm sure Dan can tell you that too. People get arrested all the time for domestic violence, and the case gets dropped because the other person. Again, there's a whole cycle with that. Ooh, with the, I don't know if you guys say that word on your channel, my bad, but there's a whole cycle with that. So we have the love bombing, then, you know, it goes through that aggression and violence, and then back to I'm sorry, and then back to love bombing, and it just goes over and over and over.
Yeah. There's evidence throughout the years, not just that case, but we've got a neighbor, I think Jody Sue Brown even said she heard them fighting, and so we know it's true. We know it's been on and off, and they've split up and they come back together, and it's just this, what you're describing, that cycle of.
So why would you take somebody back that abuses you? And it would be because they make you feel safe at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his way of being like, look, I got your back. Literally, I got your back. It's almost like him feeling Dr. Phil, like being predatory almost, and he's being like, don't worry, I got you.
Yeah.
Which is such manipulative behavior, if that's what it is we're seeing.
The next section, by the way, we get into the cornbread mafia moment, and this isn't the big dramatic moment, but this is where he mentions what happened. And she does have a little bit of a reaction, but we're getting closer to that behavioral panel. And I think after the section here, we can talk about her reaction. We can get to the behavioral panel interviews, which I think you'll find way more interesting because they're raw. They're like raw interviews, semi-private. They almost were in a room where they make them feel like they're not being watched by a huge audience. So you get a lot more. It's fascinating. Yeah. All right. This section is, let's see, 23, 22. All right.
Do you know something about it that you haven't shared? Something you may not even know you know. You may not, there may be something in your mind you don't even know you know, or you may know something that you haven't chosen to speculate about, or you haven't chosen to tell. And that's what I'm really focused on right now, because you're in the best position to know what could have happened. If you had to speculate, what do you think happened?
I have no idea what happened.
Well,
I don't.
You have to have some idea, because you took your daughter in the house and you never saw her come out.
Right.
Something happened.
I don't know what happened. She just was gone.
But she didn't just vaporize. Someone had to take her out of that house. And we know it wasn't you. We know you didn't do anything to her.
Right.
So if it wasn't you, then who was it? Let's rule you out. Okay, we've taken you off the chessboard. You're off the table. If it wasn't you, then who would be the next most likely candidate?
I don't know. I wish I knew.
Would it be someone, a stranger? Would it be somebody you know?
I don't know anybody that would have did it. It had to be a stranger.
Is there anybody you knew that has disappeared since this happened?
No.
That, you know, they were around and then this happened and all of a sudden they kind of moved away, or they've gone away somewhere?
Nobody that I know of.
The only people that I know is the people I work with on a daily basis, and that's the only ones I've ever hung out with. I work all the time, and when I am home, I'm with my kids and her.
Is there anybody that you've had dealings with that are shady, that would do something revenge-wise just to get back at you, to hurt you, that you owe money, or that you had illicit dealings with in some way? We know that you've had some conflict with the law concerning drugs and different things. Is there anybody that you've gotten sideways with?
I fired a lot of guys for being on meth. And the last guy I fired a day before, pretty sure, I can't prove it, but he was way out there, and I fired him. The very next day, my daughter disappeared. And the law, TBI's been talking to him, and he's got an alibi where he was.
Is there anybody that he's been involved with that you think might be trying to get even with y'all by taking your daughter?
Not that I'm aware of.
So,
is there anybody that might be trying to get even with you?
She didn't say no. She said
Not
not
that
that
I
I'm
know
aware
of.
of.
You're
Or not
right.
that I'm know of. I also noticed that he is very. Do you guys remember in the BK case when the lawyer, when she was trying to like have the alternate suspects and they were like, absolutely not, you're not going to just ruin people's lives. So I feel like Don knows because he says that the guy had an alibi, which means that the guy was cleared already. So why even bring that guy? Like, why bring him on? Like, he just brought that poor guy that works for him and just like
Yes.
threw him out. Like, because now everybody that's sleuthing is going to be like, who is that guy? Who worked for you? Who was there? And that focuses on him, even though he knows that they've already cleared that guy.
Yeah, and that was a whole several months of more drama. You're right. They went after that guy because they were thinking
They did go after him.
oh yeah, they know his name. I'm not gonna say his name, but oh yeah, absolutely. It was a whole thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But do you get the sense from their descriptions here, the way they're responding to these questions, do you get the sense that they truly don't know a thing
No.
so far?
We said earlier, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I don't know if they did anything, but I feel like, in my opinion, that they at least know more, or at least she does know more, knows something, or is afraid maybe. I want to know more about her past, like about, I know she's lost like custody of kids before this. Like, you know, I want to know those things because all of that stuff, like I've heard, and little things I'm reading in chat too. Like I heard that she abused one of her kids. I don't know if that's true, like, and lost custody. So like my thing is that I'm also like, I'm like feeling this compassion right now, but at the same time, I do have to remember that she does have the ability to inflict pain. Or like, I could never hit my kids.
As far as Dawn blaming the coworker, you know, in the Idaho case, there was an interview with the Gonsalves family, and they were talking about the people that were cleared. And they mentioned, I think some folks got cleared too early. And a lot of people looked at them in a certain manner, looked at the people that they were talking about. But that didn't mean anything nefarious on the part of the Gonsalves.
No, remember at the end where she wanted to bring it into the court? She wanted to bring the 4 alternate suspects or whatever, but we all knew that there wasn't 4 alternate suspects. And me and you actually talked about it. Like, why would we even bring the names of these 4 alternate suspects out knowing that there isn't any?
Right. And that was the lawyer. But like in this scenario, Don bringing up somebody who is
I see.
Yeah, who worked for him. I mean, I would be suspicious of that. If you know, if you fired somebody and then the next day your kid goes missing.
That is a great point. That's a great point.
You know, I would be suspicious of it. Now, does that mean anything? And I would assume there's also evidence of that. You know,
even if you know that they cleared him, though.
No. Well, if I'm Don, like, you know what I'm saying?
But that's what I mean. Like, he then says, but he had an alibi. So, like, it wasn't him. So, like, what was the point of even bringing him up?
Right. But I mean, in the Idaho case, there was people that were cleared and the family would like, we thought they cleared them too fast.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I think what Don was saying,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, what Don was saying was that he originally, you know, because law enforcement, what's the first question they ask you? Is there anyone who could possibly have anything against you or anything, you know? That probably would be the first name that would come to his mind. I just fired this guy.
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
Yeah. But at least he did say that he was cleared. So
yes, you're right. 100%. Yeah. Thank you guys for saying that. You're so right. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay. Let's we're almost done this section and then we'll get to the behavioral.
That would try to hurt you by taking your daughter.
I can't think of anybody.
Nobody in the drug culture, nobody owed money, nobody.
In our area, there's people that, you know, you got these boys and then you got these boys that you know, they're very prideful about, you know, kind of like, I guess LA, you got the Bloods and the Crips. Well, these are hillbillies. I don't know. But we don't associate with them. We don't socialize with them. We try to socialize with our church. We try to keep our kids in that church. That's our main goal. We try to stay completely far away from that kind of activity as possible.
Well, but you haven't always.
Right.
When you guys sat down with Scott and Greg, they asked you about.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to the actual He did make a good point though to Dawn, and I mentioned this when I was talking. I actually talked to Dawn this weekend for about 30 minutes on the phone, and we were talking a little bit about I can't remember why he texted me and he wanted to talk real quick. And we talked
Did he know that you were going to meet with me and Daniel?
He knows what I do, and I'm as surprised as you are that he's willing to talk to me. Although
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
Why is that?
You should be careful, really, because if he even knew a little bit that we might all be meeting tonight to talk about this stuff, and he knows that I'm a psychologist and Daniel's an ex-cop and stuff, like this might be his way of like making sure, because when you did open up in the show, and I'm just saying this is how things happen to us where we don't even realize that it's happening, but in the very beginning of the show, you did make a statement about how you wanted to make sure that nobody accuses him, da 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 da. I wonder if you would have said that same thing had he not had contacted you before the show. That's all I'm saying. And again, I don't think we do this stuff knowingly. It's all subconscious. But that would have like worked if you think about it, if he was being, just be careful as far as manipulation. That's all.
I appreciate that. I think you're absolutely right. I think you're right. And being careful is important. Although people who have followed us, even before we even had the opportunity to talk directly to them, we've always tried to take the approach of never taking a side. And it's kind of kicked us, because when we'll go to a place where we're exploring a theory of like the Exxon gas station that we know Candace went to, we will go to that location and we'll be like, okay, today we're exploring the theory that Candace came here to hide something. And they know that about us. Like Don knows I'm going to explore theories that they actually did it. And then
he also knows that you don't just go out and blame people either. So I wonder, like, in other words, I wonder if he would have called somebody that he knows wouldn't believe him type thing, as opposed to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
That's what I mean. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like, and if I'm a manipulator, that's the person I'm looking for, is the one that I think will listen to me type thing. So I'm just saying, make sure somebody doesn't play on your heartstrings, which is why I don't talk to criminals, because I think that they might be able to play on mine. So I'm not saying that you're doing anything wrong. I think it's just human behavior. And the way that we like to like think that like we're understanding somebody else, or that we feel their vibe or whatever. But if somebody, and again, I don't know that he's a manipulator, but if he is, then that could be a tactic for him, where you might be building this emotional bond, not emotional bond, like your best friends, not like that, but where you feel compassion and stuff like that, where if he is a manipulator or has like antisocial personality, he would be playing those heartstrings and doing that on purpose, although not feeling any of those things.
That makes a lot of sense to me. That really does, because you're right, if he's a manipulator, then he will 100% believe that he could manipulate. Like he would have that confidence that he could manipulate.
1,000%, which is probably why he's on Dr. Phil.
Yeah, it's a good point. This next section, we're almost done with this one here, is I think it's the. Well, I'll get to it. I can't remember exactly what this section's about.
Scott asked you about the Cornbread Mafia.
Cornbread Mafia.
You got very upset when he asked you about that. Why did that upset you so much?
Because I don't even know what that is.
Sorry?
I've never even heard of it. I don't even know what it is.
And why would it upset you so much?
Because it sounds horrible.
Just thinking her in her mind.
Here he is once again stepping in to answer for Candace. Isn't it interesting?
Because he sees Candace breaking down here, so he feels like Dr. Phil is getting, like he is being, like he's getting her to react here, and Don sees that. So what a better way to like stop that by jumping in and trying to explain what it is she's really trying to say.
Right, explaining why she's getting upset rather than just letting it play out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling like she's being interrogated bothers her, because she loves her daughter with all her heart. She spent a lot of quality time with her every day. Thank God. She took a lot of pictures.
Well, why don't you let her answer?
Okay, yes, sir.
Because that's not interrogating you. It's we're trying to help you find your daughter. I started this out by saying, I don't think you hurt your daughter. I'm standing up for you. I'm saying, I don't think you hurt your daughter, but I'm going to look under every rock. I'm going to go down every trail. I'm going to investigate everything. And if you want to find her, you would be right there beside me saying, right, Doc, let's turn this rock over. Let's ask this person. Let's consider this. It doesn't make sense to me that, I mean, you got up and left the interview when he asked you about that, and I didn't understand that. You want to find your daughter, obviously. Yes. And it puzzles me that you get so upset about that.
I got a question real quick.
And, you know, one theory.
Yes.
For Dr. Vona, when Dawn was challenged there by Dr. Phil, and he said, why don't you let her answer? He's like, okay. And he looks down immediately, kind of surrenders. What does that tell you about his personality? What does that tell you about, does that scream as narcissism to you?
Well, it is narcissistic, but the thing is, he's probably not used to people coming back at him. He's probably used to being the one that steers the room. Even if people don't believe him, people aren't always willing to, like, even if I didn't believe what he had to say there, I don't know that I would have had the gall that Dr. Phil did to be like, why don't you let her talk? I might have just redirected it and been like, Candace, what do you think? Where Dr. Phil was like, let her talk, type thing. So I don't think that he gets challenged like that regularly. Gotcha. So I think that was just him being like, what the heck? Like, he wasn't expecting that, I don't think.
He wasn't, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering because I mean, obviously I'm not a narcissist. Well, at least I don't think I am.
Wait, what's the cornbread mafia, real quick?
That's funny. So, and I actually,
it's the Gambino family. I'm like, the cornbread mafia. What is this?
It's a homegrown Southern, I guess, not quite mafia. They have it's like a weed ring kind of thing. And
it was organized crime with marijuana and drugs, where they would sell, distribute, and transport within the South.
It's a Southern.
So could she be like reacting because, like, do you think this is something we should look further into?
The cornbread mafia hadn't been a thing since like the late 80s.
Yeah, I don't even know. I never even heard of it. You believe that she didn't even know what it was?
My thoughts were, I want to watch the interview because I don't remember it, but my initial thought was that it was a different reaction and that she tried to cover up with crying. But I'd have to look at the interview again. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I looked into it when I heard that because I was like, what the heck is the cornbread mafia? And yeah, it was in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, was organized crime for distribution of marijuana.
How did their name even get brought up in this, though? You know, the behavioral panel brought it up out of the blue. I don't know where they came up with it. Yeah, I don't know where they came up with it. It's like they did a Google search for mafia in the South to see if they could come up with something, and I guess they came up with that one. I don't know, to get a rise.
That's interesting.
I don't know where they came up with it. It just came out right out of the interview. It's strange. And she did
maybe she really doesn't know what it is.
So when that came up in the phone conversation with Don this weekend, I asked him, I said, hey, I was watching the Dr. Phil interview with you guys getting ready for our next live, and what's up with the cornbread mafia? And he said they cut it out. He told me they cut out the section where when they first brought it up in the behavioral panel interview. Apparently, he said he burst out laughing because it was like so irrelevant, and he claims they had no idea what it was. And
you see that
said they cut it out. But.
That's what I was going to say. I want to watch the interview again because it looked like she was going to laugh and then she tried to mask it with the crying.
Mm-hmm.
That was that's why I went like, because I wanted to watch it again. I didn't want to say that, but that is exactly what I thought it was that she was going to laugh, and instead of laughing and showing that emotion, she started crying, or maybe perhaps the crying came natural because she was about to burst out laughing. But that was the thought that I had thought. It's crazy. I wish I would have said it before you put it out there.
Is guilty knowledge that You may know something you don't even know you know. You may be afraid of something that is so horrible you don't even want to think about it. And so you push it down and don't even want to think about it. But I want you to think about it. I want you to be willing to consider every possibility, because it's only when you think about the darkest possibilities that we can find answers. And the cornbread mafia, and there is trafficking involved in that part of the country, like every other part.
I just skipped that section because they were talking about the cornbread mafia, and they described what our commenters are saying. It was an old mafia type group that we know about that was just into marijuana, and they didn't explain why they brought it up. They just said what it was.
For the country, and so one of the theories is that someone abducted her in that regard. And I don't know that. I'm just saying you have to consider that. Somebody took her for some reason.
That's been one of my theories, because there's been a lot of people coming up to our house and just taking whatever at night. They come up, they knew where we were one day, and they took all the tools out of my shed. And that's been one of my theories, is someone local that's been watching us. And then the other theory is a more professional type mafia or whatever. I don't know, but that's always been one of my theories. But I never heard about no cornbread mafia.
So one commenter just brought up something good. So I wonder if they were randomly bringing up cornbread mafia as a way to talk about the drug scene, because I'll tell you, East Tennessee does have a really bad drug. Organized crime, absolutely, 100%. And one commenter just mentioned one of the organizations, they call them vice lords. There's a bunch of others who are potentially connected to other missing persons cases, like Layla Santinello, one we cover. She was into drugs. She was a young lady, 19, 20 years old, disappeared, OD'd. And that happens often. So I kind of wonder if Dr. Phil and the behavioral panel weren't using just some random drug group to get a rise out of them, to see if it's related to drug connections. Maybe.
I think
Maybe, I don't even know.
Use the more relevant and more something that people are actually afraid of in the area. I mean, bringing up something like cornbread mafia sounds. I think somebody put it in the chat. If you don't know who they are, if you're not familiar with it, and you're from the South, you may seem that as almost as an insult. Like, what are you trying to say? You know what I mean? And so, with that in mind, I would have felt that the tactic would have been a better one if they would have used a more current and as you mentioned, there are several different gangs that are in the area. If you would have mentioned one of those, to see, or even one that is like super dangerous. Like, for instance, there's Mexican cartels that are out here in Texas. And if you were to bring out a specific one, maybe the most violent one, if they are involved in that type of activity, they probably are familiar with the most violent group in that area. And that would spark a reaction that you're probably looking for. And so I just thought it was weird to bring up an old or something that maybe isn't in that area that's prevalent, that's more well known for the time.
I agree.
Yeah, a marijuana group didn't make sense to me. There's a lot surrounding the meth scene. When you're talking about when you talk about that particular drug, now you're talking about the groups that people are pretty freaked out about, pretty scared of in the area. So I agree, Dan. I don't know why they didn't bring up one of those, to get a rise out of them. It was weird. And it was insulting. It really was insulting. A lot of people have said, like, cornbread mafia, are you serious? Is that just because they're in the South? It didn't make any sense.
I can't believe they just came up with it like it wasn't like a tip or something. That's crazy.
Maybe they know more. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't think I could have said that with a straight face. Like, was it the cornbread mafia? Like, I just don't think it would have rolled off the tongue with the what I was trying to get across. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So now we are getting into the emotion. You're going to see the emotion now from Candace. This is big time. This is the behavioral panel interview, the segment I could find, I asked people if they had a full interview of her, but all I could get was this section, and I think it's because she left early, took off her mic, walked out. So you'll see that here. I think you'll get a lot more out of this than you did out of the Dr. Phil interview itself.
At first, but finally agreed to sit down.
Candace, I'm gonna have to ask you some hard questions. I told you this. Did you do anything this summer?
No.
Do you know what happened this summer?
No.
Do you know who took summer?
No.
Anybody in your family involved with this?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And you know, people are always going to point their fingers to people closest to somebody. It's just the nature of how it goes. What do you got to say to those people?
I don't know what to say, but they're wrong.
Why are they wrong?
Because I had nothing to do with this.
Now, what they do is they go into an analysis segment. So they'll do this in sections. That was the first section. And I can play it again if you want to see more of how her emotions building. But did you get anything out of that segment, Dr. Vona?
Well, I'm wondering why, like, if she said that Don had to be there with her. Like, I wonder why is he sitting right next to her?
Good point.
One thing that I'm noticing is she's not as guarded. And so I think that this obviously appears that this happened first. And so that probably leans, the result of this might be one of the reasons why she's so guarded with Dr. Phil as well.
Because this came first, you're saying. She knew this happened. Oh, yeah.
Well, not so much that she knew that is, but like, for instance, if she walked off, like Dr. Vona mentioned before, if she was promised like, hey, we believe you, this, that, and the third, and then she goes in there and then she feels like she's interrogated again, and then to the point where she walks off the stage, the next time that she speaks with Dr. Phil, she has that is the most recent account with the show is that. Yeah. And so that may have an effect on her being defensive. That may have an effect on her demeanor, on why she's being so guarded and those type of things. I think that, in that video that you showed, she's not leaning away from him with her shoulder up, covering her face. She's looking directly at them, and is open to what they're saying at that point, at least from what we saw, from what I gather.
That's a good point with the body language. You're picking up on something that I think one of the behavioral panel guys said so you're watching the guarded, putting the chin down, not putting the chin down, that kind of like body position. One thing they said that I'm curious what you think, Dr. Vona, is I'm going to show this again real quick, 1724. And they mentioned when her vocal range changed, the way she answered the questions. I'm going to play this one more time. And I'm curious if you take notice.
But take notice, she says no when they ask her a question. She says no, but then she does say, not that I know, but she says no first, where she didn't the last time.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Good point.
Candace, I'm going to have to ask you some hard questions. I told you this. Did you do anything this summer?
No.
Do you know what happened this summer?
No.
Do you know who took summer?
No.
That difference is what they highlighted. Do you know who took summer? Long pause, shook her head, and then a really soft no.
It was no. Yeah, I noticed that difference too. And if you think about it, she might not know what happened this summer after, you know what I mean? Like, so even if she doesn't know where she went or who has or whatever, she might not really know what happens to her after that. So that's a way of telling the truth, even if you're not telling the truth. Does that make sense? It's like parsing words, because then they say, do you know what happened? Or what was the question they asked at the end where she changed?
Do you know who could have been involved? Yeah.
And that's where she changes her tone of voice, because maybe she knows who, but maybe she doesn't know what happens after who takes them, which would mean that she's still telling the truth in that situation if she says, I don't know what happened to her.
One thing I did notice is there's a subconscious movement there while she's talking. She's shaking her head no at the same time. Something to point out at, sometimes when folks are, maybe lying, they might say no, shake their head, or yeah, and they'll shake their head no. And that subconscious answer is sometimes what you're looking for as far as the authentic answer and the truth. And I noticed that she's also shaking her head no at the same time as she's answering that question.
So you both feel like even the last answer was authentic. She was telling the truth.
I don't know. I don't know that that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that she could be telling the truth, what's the word I'm looking for? Like very concretely. So like in a concrete way. So in other words, if I say, do you know what happened to somebody? But let's say you don't know what happened to them after. Let's say you do know who, but you don't know what happens after. Then if you say, no, I don't know what happened, you wouldn't be lying. So I don't know if that's why I'm saying, could it be that that's different because she really doesn't know what happened? I don't know that answer because I don't think I know enough to know that. But I'm just saying it like Daniel said, it did look like she was being coherent with like what she was saying.
Yeah.
So Daniel, if I ask somebody if I look good in that outfit and they're like, yes, I should get changed.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Not saying that it's always,
No,
spot
I know
on or
you.
anything like that. Most people don't do that, but every now and then, if you get like one of these subconscious nods, that can be an indication of one way or the other, because, they're thinking about what they're saying and maybe not always what their body is doing, for instance. And so, food for thought there. Doesn't mean that she's telling the truth. Doesn't mean she's lying. I would say this, that if it went like, if she said yeah or no, but was shaking her head a little bit or nodding, I would say that, it sounds like she's lying, but I don't see that indication there.
Do you think that it can indicate that she has suspicions, but she doesn't know? So she's telling the truth, but she has suspicions.
If you had suspicions, why wouldn't you say who it was? Like if you had no reason to feel like you would get in trouble too.
Well, that was one of my thoughts, though, is that maybe perhaps because Chris McDonough has interviewed her and he says that there's a point where she's breaking down, she's crying, snot is coming out, and she says something to the effect that I think God is punishing me. Now, when I heard that and I started, to think about that scenario, I felt like the summer being gone was was the punishment that she was referring to. And so I was thinking, well, what would she have done to have caused that? And there's a lot of this talk about, with Dawn about, God and religion and things of that nature. And then there's also that 911 situation that occurred where Dawn thought that Candace was cheating on him. And I've been open about this. I wondered if that's what it is that she's hiding, is that she had an extramarital affair. And one of the things that I wondered is if that extramarital affair was with somebody maybe perhaps not of age, whether that was Hunter, whether that was somebody else, something that she can't admit to because obviously she would then find herself in her own legal issues. I pointed to the fact that when Chris McDonough was in the house, there was Girls Gone Wild on the TV, which is not something that I would expect an older dude to be having. Like I've worked some cases where there's child predators and things of that nature. That's not typically what you find, with those type of things. Now I've seen where that type of material where it's just girls flashing used to attract younger, like in the grooming scenario of a situation, right? And that's one of the things that we were talking about once, Ryan, where you mentioned to the effect that, I don't know, why a young man would find Candace attractive, given the age difference and things of that nature. And then that's when I said, that's when the smokes and the drinks and the secrets come in. And then the filth on the TV. I don't know where Don was that day, that Chris McDonough did that walkthrough. But if he was at work and he was quite a bit of ways away, I have no idea. I wonder who was watching that Girls Gone Wild or what the intention of that was for. I mean, it could have been Candace's. Maybe she's into that type of stuff. But to me, that kind of screamed out that. And could, for you, Dr. Vona, could that be something that we're picking up on as far as like something wrong here? And
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%. That could totally be plausible. And I would even be afraid for her if Don was listening to this right now, that he would even take that theory and press it. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, look, even Daniel, the investigator, thinks you did something. So I would caution that, but absolutely that could be the case. And so why would somebody, she could be, and I don't know her whole past, but from what I've read in chat, people said absolutely, I don't know what her trauma was, but people said she's had trauma, childhood trauma even. And sometimes when people have childhood trauma, they're stunted emotionally in that age. And so she could be, where Don could be playing more of like a dad role for her. And she's like, so yes, I could see what you're saying as a possibility.
Yeah, and they're saying that I've seen a lot of people in the live chat say this, that they've cheated on each other quite a bit. Is that been proven? I know people are saying that, but has that been proven?
It's been admitted, and the problem is that the Wells, one thing about the Wells too is they like to play practical jokes. Like recently, Candace has said she has a girlfriend in 2 different locations. They don't know about each other yet. And it was like a big joke, I think. So it's hard to know. But people who know them closely have said yes. And a lot of people in chat are also saying they've admitted through the years that, yeah, that's been happening. So most likely.
Yeah.
She may not feel that she deserves like the, and again, I'm not saying that she doesn't, but when we're growing up, we have an internal working model where we either do or we don't feel like we're deserving of love or deserving to love other people. So if that was the case and she keeps taking back somebody that cheats on her like that, and I don't know if she's cheated on him too, I'm not sure. But that would just say to me, like, you have a low self-esteem, right?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, why would you keep doing this over and over again? Other than you didn't think that you deserve something more. I think he provides a sense of security for her.
It's hard to say.
Like a fatherly thing.
Couples have interesting relationships, right? I mean, some of them, there are whole swinger communities out there, I guess, and they're okay with it. So maybe, I don't know. They're just okay with them. I don't know. I haven't dug into that part of the relationship very much, so I really don't know. I can't say.
Yeah. No, I have my specialization in couples therapy, so I'm picking up on a lot of it too. And again, I would be curious. I think maybe after this, Ryan, you send like a text just to make sure they're good. Like, I'd be afraid that he would take something that we said tonight and go like just confront her. Even, I'm not saying do anything to harm her, but like even confront her with something. Like, is he the jealous type?
Well, the information about the possibility of Candace being involved with young men, I think, has been out there for a while. A lot of people look at the fact that I guess there was a little boy. So going back to when Summer disappeared, she was Summer, her mom Candace, and the grandmother, and they call her Grandis. They went out into town. They had to go do some stuff and medical stuff with the grandma, and they went to go get I guess a prescription. They end up going to a friend's house, a young man, 15 years old, named Hunter. They end up picking him up, and he travels along, and apparently she purchases like alcohol and smokes for him at certain points. I don't know if it's that day or not, but it sounds like that's kind of their relationship. She says that she sees him as a son, and those type of things, that she has a husband and kids. I think that's what she said in her interview. But yeah, there was a young man that was out there, 15 years old, and I think a lot of people have alluded to there being something there, and other people have come forward saying that certain things about Candace. So it's not like completely new to Dawn, I think.
No, he knows. I mean, and you're right, Dr. Vona. So what we do know, I know for a fact, because we interviewed someone who stayed up there for at least a year off and on while her family member was living up there in a trailer. And she confirmed to us that Candace, one thing Candace did do, I'm not going to say she does do anymore, but at least at the time, is there were a lot of minors hanging out on the property, teenagers, a lot of teenage boys, some teenage girls. and she would 100% from this witness statement, she would give them alcohol. She would give them a lot of alcohol, some of them too much alcohol. So, and I think what Dan and I had talked about in a past live too is and I'm not accusing Candace of this, but that's a sign when someone is grooming teenagers, they'll use alcohol a lot of times. So I think that's something we talked about.
Yeah,
but it could go back.
It could also though be, what if she doesn't have a very high self-esteem and the younger kids give her a sense of like, she's so cool.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it could be something like that too, where they're making her feel like, accepted, and like these kids, they like hanging out with me.
That's slippery
Could be
slope,
something
though.
like that too.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, Dr. Bona, is that is a sign of what people who groom do, but if you take into account what you've been saying this whole time we've been talking about them with the past trauma, it goes in line with what you're saying. Like, she just wants to feel like I think she feels like she is closer to that age group, to the teenage age group.
That's what I was saying. Emotionally stunted. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how like some of these teachers end up getting in trouble, is because they feel closer to the teenage group. They want to be the cool teacher. They want to be this, they want to be that. And then that slippery slope leads to something inappropriate. I mean, it's already inappropriate if you're buying alcoholic beverages and smokes for a young man, at her age. And so I assure everybody would feel that way if it was Dawn purchasing alcoholic beverages and smokes for a 15-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody would also, assume that would have been extremely inappropriate. And so, not saying that that's the case. I'm not saying that's the case either, that that's what Candace was doing or whatnot, but that it is a slippery slope. And, you have a young man who's, at 15 years old, you're mixing alcohol and things like that with a confused young boy who's probably confused about their body and puberty and things of that nature that can be easily taken advantage of. And so, it doesn't look right, like you mentioned, and it can definitely be a slippery slope. And when it comes down to what she's hiding, because I think even the behavioral panel, Dr. Phil, and myself, and I don't know much at all, but I even see it, that it feels like she's hiding something. I wonder if that's what it is, and there'd be a real fear of the potential of going to jail for something like that.
Well, according to Hunter, after she had taken the polygraph, she had been interrogated, he had been interrogated. According to Hunter, he did go visit her afterwards. And one of the first things she asked him about was, did you tell them about the alcohol? Which to me was like, that blew my mind, because your daughter's missing. There's so many other factors, so many other things you need to be concerned about at that moment. And for her to be so concerned that the TBI knows she gave him alcohol, I don't get. I don't understand why that's a primary concern.
Because she knew that was wrong, and she knew that if they knew about that they would wonder what else do they need to know about her.
Yeah, but that also opens up to the fact that there might be something more serious there.
Well, that's what I mean. So like, it might open it up to like, we need to ask her more questions about this, and this. So, but you're right? You think that she wouldn't have cared about that at the moment, that she would have cared about? Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, that's so minor in my opinion. But now that you guys are saying that, that's a good point. It opens the door. Like, if you would do that, what else would you be willing to do, kind of thing, with minors? Good point. Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think anybody here is blaming her for doing anything with minors. There's not an accusation. It's just there's behavior that are consistent with something that could turn into something bad. It's a slippery slope. That's all I'm saying.
All right, this is the thing, though. I don't think it's a slippery slope in the sense that I think it's wrong all the time to hang out with youngsters or, give them anything that would make them. This is the thing. Youngsters look at adults as like, they have like, when we do something like get it alcohol for a minor, we wind up breaking a barrier in their head that like, these are the people that are supposed to take care of us. Like, they're the ones that are authority and they're going to break rules. So, and it winds up warping your thought process, which is why it then makes people more susceptible to things like, promiscuity, drugs, alcohol, stuff like that. what I'm thinking is, even if it wasn't like a sexual thing, that feeling of these are like my friends or people that understand me, I think would even trump a sexual thing, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And again, I'm not saying that, I don't know if there was either, but to me, this screams more of like she found her group. Does that make sense? Like these are my friends, these are my people. It could be something more than that too. I don't know. But I'm saying it could be something where it's not even sexual. It's just a matter of like, I can get you alcohol, like, and that makes you want to come around and talk to me. And now, like, I have friends too, and God only knows, in marriage therapy, that would say to me, what does Don do? Is he ever not around the house that much, that like he's away a lot, that she's bored and she's seeking attention elsewhere? And would Don not allow her to hang out with people that are their age because he might accuse her of cheating? So it could just be that this happened to be a sweet spot where she was able to hang out and be like, Don, they're kids. Like, I would never do anything. Like, so like, in other words, it gave him that, like, where he wasn't that worried about it either. So it made her feel like she could do that. I don't know.
I think you're on the right track, because that same interview we had where she admitted that Candace gave a lot of alcohol to the minors, I asked her the question, and her friend was there, and she kept asking her too, was there any inappropriate behavior? Was there anything that looked like it was too far, hugging or affection? And this girl we interviewed, she's like, no. It was just inappropriate giving minors. The only thing she said was inappropriate was, why doesn't a grown adult always hang out with teenagers, and why is she giving a ton of alcohol? She did not say there was any appropriate touching or that she witnessed or anything like that. So yeah, I think you're right.
And that says to me also, I don't know what the culture is like. Maybe giving interview, I don't know how old these kids are. Are they 18, 19? I don't know how old they are, but like, could it just be in their head like, oh, what, you didn't give kids alcohol when they were 18 and where you live? Like, so it could be a cultural thing where it wasn't really frowned upon as much. I don't know how old these kids were. Like, were they like, 18, 19?
Young to mid-teens. Yeah.
Okay,
I will say this.
I'll
say this. I've investigated sexual deviance before, and child predators. Sometimes people, they hide it fairly well. The other thing is too, I would agree with everything that you guys are saying, if and only if the Girls Gone Wild has nothing to do with any young boys. If that was her watching it, because Don was at work that day or whatever the case may be, and nobody else was supposed to be there, that wasn't for somebody else, that wasn't for a young man, then yeah, it could very well be that she's found her people, and she feels more, I guess, friendly because, whatever. But if the Girls Gone Wild aspect plays a role in it, that's the sexual aspect of this, of their relationship. And
okay,
that's different. But I don't know if it is.
Right, but I'm saying, I'm trying to think of how else could that play into this, and the way that else could play into this is you have to want like these kids to want to hang out with you too, right? So you have to be providing something. They're not just going to hang out with somebody much older than them. So go to my house. You could come to my house. We can have alcohol. I could give you some smokes. You could watch Girls Gone Wild. Like, so it's almost like look how like that I'm cool. Like, come hang out here with me. And again, I don't know that this to be true, but I'm saying if we found that there wasn't a sexual component, it wouldn't surprise me that this behavior still occurred. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I agree.
Let's be honest. Who's really playing with themselves? The Girls Going Wild. Like,
well,
why would she have it on herself?
It's not so much like, so if you put your mind into the predator, right? You start off with the alcohol, you start off with the smokes, it starts off with secrets
absolutely.
and promises. And the Girls Gone Wild is to induce a sexual response. A 15-year-old, like a grown man, this is why I think it's weird, because a grown man, that's experienced and, has been with women and things of that nature, watching Girls Gone Wild may not be that thrilling. But to a young boy that's 15 years old that maybe hasn't seen a pair of women's breasts, it's a different story. It's a different story. And that's why it's interesting to me that it was Girls Gone Wild. And it's interesting to me at the time of day that it was playing.
Yeah.
I think those two things are the things that really stand out to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Girls Gone Wild, isn't that like Like, and I'm not
This
trying
girl's
to be,
flashing.
yeah, but it's not that. Like, isn't it more of like an infomercial?
Well,
They had infomercials.
I'm just saying,
doing
like,
it.
to me, with
Yeah.
all the social media stuff that we have nowadays, like, I feel like people would go to like Cornhub, not like Girls Gone Wild. I'm just saying if they were using it for that. But so my thing is, how do we know that it wasn't, you know, I don't know. Maybe she didn't have access because people said that they didn't have good internet. So maybe that was just something she had. So you could be right. I really don't know. I'm just saying that if we found that there wasn't a sexual thing, I still wouldn't be like, well, then what was it? Because to me, just being like emotionally stunted in trauma and wanting people to be around you and having people that are allowed over when Don's not there, because maybe that was the only group of people. Maybe she could have said, like, use her own kids or something. Like, what are you talking about? All the kids come over here. Like, you know, like, I just don't know, like, if he's a jealous person, would she not be allowed to have friends her own age? Because that might lead to
I'm sure
something.
that's the issue. I'm sure
Yeah,
that's
100%.
definitely an issue there.
Yeah. We know that when a guy named Jose was staying there while he was across the country, he admitted that when he heard some dude was staying there, Candace's age, he raced back home. So yes, there's indications of could definitely be the jealous type.
So this could be her way of having friends. And that's sad if you think about it, right? Or having like a group of people that accept her, at least that she thinks accepts her. They could just be there for the alcohol and the Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah. Are you guys ready to see this ramp up?
Yep.
Yeah.
It keeps going up. The temperature keeps rising here.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the next tape.
Is there any reason anyone near you would want to hurt you or your kids?
Not that I'm aware of.
What do you think should happen to somebody that did this? To the person that did this, what do you think should happen to them?
They should be put away for the rest of their lives. I mean, they should be tormented, I think.
All right, then they analyze that section. Any thoughts on that one? That was like 10 seconds. I can jump to the next one.
It's always interesting when they ask a parent what should happen to the kid. And I don't know, I guess this just would depend. I would be assuming that if, God forbid, something happened to my child, I would be like, they would die type thing. Like, I don't know. But she does then go in to say that they should be tormented. So that,
Yeah.
you know, so I don't know. I did notice that she didn't say no again. They asked her, do you know of anybody that would want to hurt you? And she didn't say no. She said, not to my knowledge. So there's some times that she says no, and other times that she doesn't say no. She just says, not to my knowledge.
Yeah, true. Yep.
To me, I thought that it almost seemed like when she said the tormented aspect was almost like that was the response she thought that they were expecting her to say. Not necessarily.
Yes, afterwards, right?
Yeah,
Like,
not necessarily
like
her
wasn't
first
harsh
thought.
enough.
Right, exactly. Like, you know, yeah, it should be more. So it didn't come off completely authentic to me.
Yeah,
I agree.
the guarded aspect of her personality, in my opinion, never really dropped until the moment that's coming up. The whole thing to me was she wasn't letting on a whole lot of her, what she was actually thinking, her emotions. She was just, like you said, kind of answering with what she thought she should say. The right answer, right? Okay. I think I got the right timestamp. 2004. Here we go.
You would have a very extremely graphic answer to that.
Yeah, it wouldn't take me 5 seconds to think about it. Give me.
They were saying her answer wasn't harsh enough. Just saying tormented, they were like, I don't know. That was their
So
opinion.
that's what I said, right? Though I said if something, God forbid, happened to my kids and somebody asked me what should happen to them, the first thing I would say is they should die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Immediate.
Right.
10 seconds in a room alone with them, and we'll be through.
If someone stole your dog,
Yeah,
you'd have-
same answer.
that's the answer.
Same answer. But here, what you get is very different. Here, what you get is, you said, what do you think should happen to them?
Sure, and shouldn't be saying this. That's
Parents, he's talked about looking at mafia.
watch this up.
Since the night of June 5th, Summer's parents All right, let's see this one.
The guys who run organized crime around you, you worried about them at all?
Oh, they question him, and he has an alibi, you know, but, you know.
What about those fellows that live around there in the cornbread mafia?
She's already upset. They're getting into the drug conversation again. You know what I mean? And she's already like really upset.
Yeah, she does look upset.
She's definitely crying here. You could tell by like the how it goes down like that. When people fake cry, they usually forget to do that part.
Yeah. I will say there could be editing because you notice when they come to this clip, she's already upset.
Yeah. I wonder what they
So
said.
what were they talking about prior to this?
Yeah.
Right.
Now I will tell you there's a backstory to this where there were claims that she had gotten a phone call and there was a sighting of Summer in Florida during this interview. And she had allegedly gotten some information that there was a sighting, and then she found out that it wasn't Summer. So a lot of people were saying, well, that's why she was so upset. Now, Chris on the behavioral panel, who's sitting across from her right now, he said he was there when she got the message from the law enforcement that it wasn't Summer, and he said she had no reaction. So we don't know if this is due to that or not. I'm just giving you the background here because that did happen during this interview.
Interesting.
Cornbread mafia.
That's what we call them where we live. I don't know if this.
I have no idea. I've heard about some hillbilly mafia type stuff and everything, you know, and all these different boys. We've tried to steer clear from all these.
This is wires up there.
I've tried to steer clear from all these people just as much as possible. And I think they've kind of seen us as targets because they have come up and stole our stuff. They come up in my shed and stole all of my mechanic tools at one time. You know, when they knew we were gone. They knew me and her were together. Just hang on.
Have you guys put any kind of security, anything on your place?
No, we don't have any kind of security.
Okay, now this is
She says something under her breath, like something about cornbread mafia, but I didn't hear what she said. That looks like she's starting to have anxiety. Like it's to me, the minute she said, "Can you take this off of me?" Everything after that point, everything after that point, I felt was like, you know, like when somebody tells you, like, wait a second, and you're like, no, really, I need, and then like they're like, but wait, and then you get more and more. I feel like that's what was happening there.
Oh, she was shut down at that point. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like she would like, and she looks like she just got into that, like, I need to get out of here. And that after that, she wasn't even listening.
Yep.
But she does say something about cornbread mafia under her breath.
Did she?
I thought she said, I don't know cornbread mafia or something like that.
I heard cornbread mafia.
As an alibi, you know, but, you know.
What about those fellows that live around there in the cornbread mafia?
Cornbread mafia.
That's what we call them where we live. I don't know if this.
I have no idea. I've heard about some hillbilly mafia type stuff and everything, you know, and all these different boys. We've tried to steer clear from all these.
This is wires up there.
I've tried to steer clear from all these people just as much as possible. And I think they've kind of seen us as targets because they have come up and stole our stuff. They come up in my shed and stole all of my mechanic tools at one time.
Right there.
You know, when they knew we were gone.
Did she say that?
I didn't hear cornbread mafia. I heard her say, take this off me. Take this wire off me.
Yeah.
Is that what she said?
Yeah.
That's why I said, what did she say there? I heard her say something.
Mm-hmm.
That moment, I didn't catch that before. She was upset here, but the moment she got really upset, it was when he mentioned it.
Cornbread mafia.
That's what we call
See,
them.
she kind of goes up like that. I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, she's like, what the like that would have been my reaction to, like, what the F is the cornbread mafia? And that's kind of the reaction that I saw.
Okay. That's how you took it?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I've had enough of this, right?
Yeah.
Enough of this cornbread mafia crap.
She also probably knows that they're the behavior bureau. So she probably already feels extreme, like Like they're looking at everything she's doing and saying, I feel like the minute she says to take this off, everything after that, I feel like has to do with taking it off. Like as if she's getting more and more like she can't breathe, like where she's like, no, really, like take this off. Like I feel like everything after that was her trying to get that off. And is that when she gets up and leaves?
Yeah, this is the section right
A
here.
little bit.
Well, that would make
Live in the
sense.
country, you don't expect that kind of stuff.
Calm down for a minute.
No, I want to go outside.
These are tough questions.
No, I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, I am.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
No, I want out, and I want to go home.
Calm down.
I don't want
All right.
That was it. She walked off.
So this goes right back to the very beginning where I said that she probably was promised that we're going to, you know, give you compassion and hope, and instead got where she felt interrogated.
Yeah, at that point, she was like, I'm done. That's exactly what she said. I don't want to be interrogated again.
I couldn't believe she said that.
Yep.
It's interesting, you know. Like I mentioned, and I think the behavioral panel also mentions it. They feel like she's hiding something. Is that something? You know, her being completely involved with her kids' disappearance. I don't know. The behavioral panel. Now, it's one thing what they said to her and in front of her, as far as we think you didn't do this. We did. Did they ever say anything after the fact outside of the presence of Candace and Dawn as far as what they thought?
Oh, yes, quite a bit. And they analyzed that last section, especially. I can
Yeah,
play
what
that.
did they
I'll
say?
play-
Yeah, I'd like to know what they thought, because I don't. Some of this I didn't see. You were right about it being in pieces out there. I only seen part of this interview.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen it all, so I don't know what their opinions are without Candace and Dawn there. I think that would be telling as far as, were they saying the truth when they were saying what they were saying in front of them, or were they
That's a good
using the
point.
tactic?
Yeah, good point.
They also spend a lot more time with them. You know what I mean? This is edited down to an hour show for everybody else, which isn't even an hour. It's like 40 minutes. So it seems like they spend hours with them. So I'm interested into what they thought, because they actually got to spend time with them.
They did spend hours with them. You're right. Yeah, we saw tiny little clips.
Okay, this is right after you ask about the cornbread mafia, and she had the response that we saw, and now she's fleeing the scene.
Yes.
So she starts even before she flees the scene by doing something that we refer to as the trancer in our true crime workshop, and that's making yourself unavailable. Whether it's doing this or emotional or something you escape, she's already escaped. It's just a matter of getting out of that wire.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Contrast
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly what you said, Dr. Fun. She was done. She wanted out, right?
Don looks oblivious to all of this. He's trusting us and paying attention to us. She's not. It's an interesting.
Yeah, and at this point, she's down in her chin.
You ask them a question and they feel they're being threatened, you'll see that chin drop. It protects the neck. It's something that happens from your limbic system. It's a psychological thing that happens.
And see, that's the opposite of what you said, Dan, earlier. Notice you said her chin was up, her shoulders were up.
No, what I said was that her
chin
face was
down.
protected by her shoulders.
Protected. Okay.
Yeah, she had her shoulder up like this and turned away,
Oh,
protecting
okay.
her face. Like she had to look at him from a different angle, so she wasn't looking directly at him, open to Dr. Phil. She was turned, and then she had her shoulder up, and she was looking like this. So she was very much protecting her neck and her face from him.
Interesting.
So the head goes down. That's what we're seeing there, along with a lot of I. She talks about it's not working for me, those types of things.
They get very emotional. They lock up. Their throat is protected by putting their chin down over their throat. And then typically in pre-confession, their body will open up, and that's when you close. That's when you go after them.
Yeah.
We wondered.
Now, when my producer asked the Wells for a tour inside their home to better understand what happened the day that Summer...
They get into the McDonough home review. So that was the end of their analysis.
Well, what did they say as far
Yeah,
as
what
did
did they
believe
think
her?
happened?
Do they think she's lying?
Me
and Daniel want to see the end of the episode.
Yeah, we were like, what's going I have no idea if they believe her or not.
Yeah, let's see at the end if they actually talked about it. I think they might have.
Because everything I'm seeing does not tell me that I have a hypervigilance. What Candace says is that they were planting flowers.
Yes, sir.
She had a piece of candy.
Yes, sir.
They washed their hands, had a piece of candy. And then she says she walked her up the stairs to the house, inside, handed her off to the boys for supervision, that the boys said she went downstairs. Candace went back outside to help her mother with her brace and came back in, and all of that happened within 2 to 3 minutes.
What she says.
I'm saying what she says.
Yes. Yep.
2 to 3 minutes. She called for Summer, no answer. And she immediately called Dawn on the phone and said, Summer's missing.
I think she will tell you that she didn't. We got something different the other day. We heard that after she checked the house, she crawled around under beds. She did this, she did that. She put the boys out to look in the yard, and then she called Dawn, is what we heard.
Okay. So, but she went on alert in 3 to 5 minutes.
Correct.
Psychologically speaking, I have to tell you that's inconsistent with everything I'm seeing. Because everything I'm seeing does not tell me that I have a hypervigilant mom on my hands here.
Agreed.
I have a hard time believing that she would walk her up the stairs and hand her off lovingly to 3 babysitting brothers, go back and help her mother, and be back inside in 2 to 3 minutes calling for her daughter.
So is he drawing the conclusion that she's a negligent mother right there?
Well, yeah, he shows the picture of the inside of the house. I'm assuming that's inside of her house. So I would assume that he's painting that picture. But what he's saying here is that she doesn't seem like the type of helicopter mom that makes sure that she gets from one place to the other. I think the other thing he's alluding to here is that in 3 to 5 minutes, because any kid could go play, and like, would you really know in 3 to 5 minutes? Like if I didn't see my dog for 3 to 5 minutes, I might start like getting nervous, like, all right, where are they? Calling them, but I don't know that I'd panic yet. So I think that's what he was saying.
I'd like to see more about what he's saying.
Yeah, me too. Hit play.
Just timeline doesn't work right. I don't believe she could get out there and back in 2 to 3
Nor do
minutes.
we.
I don't believe she called for her in 2 to 3 minutes and went on alert in under 5 minutes and started a search. Or that she would call Don, and given Don's history with law enforcement, that his first reaction would be call the cops. Because every time the cops have been out there before that, it wasn't to serve and protect, it was to arrest and detain. I'm not saying that Candace is involved here. I'm not saying Don's involved here. I'm just saying it just doesn't add up to me. And when things don't add up, I need more information.
Yep.
Right. Coming up, Candace and Don are here. They're going to give their first.
I think Real Rock and Robin just brought up a good point. She didn't call in 5 minutes. She called in 3.5 hours.
So why is she saying 5 minutes?
Yeah. It took until 6:30 for anyone to call anyone. There was a lot that happened between 3:15 when they got home and 6:30 when law enforcement was actually called. So it wasn't. Now I should also add that the story she told, though, that she went on alert and sent her boys down the hill to search and all that stuff, that could be true because the neighbors have reported seeing the boys go down the hill to search. Candace was running around all over the place. She's been sighted different places. So she may not have meant that she called law enforcement right away. I don't know that she said that. He's saying he doesn't even believe that she went on alert in the first 5 minutes. That it was, what I took from him is that he's saying it took a little longer than that probably before she realized that Summer was actually missing.
Yeah, which I think it would be for anyone though, right? Like, let's be honest, how many of us, and I mean, I'm sure there's some parents that watch their kid, like, but when you're home, you usually assume that, especially if your kid's old enough to go play and stuff, that, all right, I'm going to go help grandma, I'll be right in. Like, So I feel like she wouldn't have had a reason to look after 5 minutes. But if she didn't look for 3, or if like it took 3 hours to call, then that makes me wonder, why is she telling Dr. Phil 2 to 3 minutes? Does she think that that's what he wants to hear?
Now, so we know that she got home at 3:15 and the 911 call came in at 6. Is that when she says that Summer went missing, the moment they got home?
3:15 they got home. They planted flowers for a while. They gave her a peppermint candy, sent her inside, said to the boys, watch Summer. And then she went to adjust the brace. Now she said from the moment she sent Summer inside to fixing the brace, she told McDonough that was like a few minutes. That was like 5 minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Very little time from when she saw Summer go down there in the basement to when she went back in again to check on her.
So I think the most important part about that is how long was it that they were planting and things like that? Because, a lot of people are saying, they were gone for 3 hours, or she was missing for 3 hours. She didn't call for 3 hours. It doesn't sound like she was missing the moment that they got home. It sounds like it was at least a little bit after. I don't know how long it took them to plant things. They've been gone all day. I wouldn't be surprised if the first thing they did was utilize the bathroom and then go out and do all these other things that they were doing. And so them getting home at 3:15, I don't think that necessarily correlates with Summer going missing at 3:15.
That makes sense.
Now, if what Dr. Phil is also alluding to, that maybe she didn't go into high alert after 3-5 minutes, if this was like 4:30 and in reality it was 30 to 40 minutes, so it's 5 o'clock by the time that she actually notices that Summer's missing. I mean, it's still an hour. That's still quite a bit of time.
You could, I agree, Dan. You could give them, just being conservative,
Generous.
giving benefit of the doubt, maybe an hour to do all the planting and all the stuff. So maybe 4:15, 4:30, but you still got like 2 hours before anybody was called.
Yeah, that's still a long time. That's still a long time.
And people made a point. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think Lulu Bell makes a great point. If she thought a stranger took them, then why did she send her boys out alone to look for Summer? Like, would you send your other kids to go look for your kid if you thought someone took them?
I don't know if
Or do
she
you think
thought
that
that
she just thought they were lost? I got you.
Yeah, I don't know if she thought that somebody took them right away. And as far as it was 4 little cactuses, it could have taken as quick as 4 minutes or a few minutes to do so. Yeah, that's if you're trying to do it at record speed. But if you're there and you're talking and you're having a conversation with somebody and doing other things, then a simple task can take some time. It's not about the task, it's about the conversation that you're having or whatever may be going on or whatever the case may be. And again, I think that if you're out all day, you've been drinking, doing some other stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if you had to use the bathroom when you got home, those type of things. And so those things add up in time. But I still think there's quite a bit of time there though.
And I should mention, a lot of people in comments have said this, and it's true. The behavioral panel, their analysis, which I can't find the right timestamp, but their final analysis was that Candace was mostly telling the truth about, they didn't think she was directly involved. They felt like she had guilty knowledge of something. Like she was withholding guilty knowledge. They all agreed that. I think even Dr. Phil. So
that's what I thought from the beginning too. I don't know if she knows what happens to her eventually, but I feel like there's something. Somebody made a good point. They said that that with the Chris McDonough interview, and I don't know if you guys remember this. I don't, so I have to watch it. But they said that she called the boy and said, "Where's Summer at?" When she, like, that was one of the people she called, and the boy tells Chris McDonough, they said, that she does that when she's drinking. Does anybody remember that? That would be interesting to me. So I need to go watch that and see.
Dr. Vona, the guilty conscience aspect, could that be because she blames herself for Summer wandering off or being disappeared or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think if anything, it's more about, and this is just my opinion, for me, it's more, I think it's her tears are coming more in the moment. So like, why are you looking at me? Why are they questioning me? More so. And again, this is just from my observation of what I'm seeing so far. And that doesn't mean that she doesn't like miss her daughter or anything. I don't mean that. I don't know that I know enough to really say, but for me, it just seems like everything she was crying about so far that I saw was more about like, and again, I think that this is coming from trauma though. So I'm not even saying it in like a predatory way. However, I guess you would expect somebody to feel some form of, I don't know. No, I don't see that yet.
So Ryan, you mentioned that, somebody had saw Candace at a gas station and stuff. There was some tree trimmers that were outside of the property.
Yeah.
I mean, we may not know this. I know some people have interviewed some folks there. Do they ever talk about Candace leaving the property in the afternoon?
The tree trimmers?
Yeah.
So I didn't see it in that interview. They never mentioned Candace. The things we do know is that this is crazy, you guys, and I can't piece it together because it's all over the place, but we know 5:30 Sullivan Gardens Exxon is like 20 minutes toward Kingsport. So 5:30 there, let's just say that's a fact. Put a pin in the Exxon gas station at 5:30. Then you've got like 6:30, Jody Sue Brown, Andy Bernard's girlfriend, wife, whatever she was, said that Andy pulled in at 6:30 and talked to Candace. And Andy has said that happened as well. So now we've got 6:30 at the intersection of Ben Hill and Peach Creek. She's back home at 6:30. Then at some point earlier, around just after 4:30, someone claimed that she was down the street at Fred's house, Fred Hill, the guy we've talked about earlier, the neighbor. So and then someone else saw her walk out of the woods on Light Hollow Road. That's not as confirmed. That's from a neighbor. I don't know how true it is. So we've got her cited like all over the place. I don't know if she was just between 4, if that's when Summer went missing and she's freaking out. If she's running all the heck around everywhere looking for Summer, but it just doesn't, I can't make it make sense. All of these sightings and all of these time stamps where she was seen, I can't make it make sense.
I wish law enforcement would come out with some of that information because they would know. I would feel, I think they would have an idea, especially if she was moving around. It wouldn't be hard to determine if she's telling the truth, especially if she had like her phone on her and things like that, because, if she was moving around in those manners, you would be able to see that on the phone. And if she left without it, her phone would be mobile. It would be stationary for multiple hours without moving. And then you got a report of these sightings during that specific time. Then you have yourself some circumstantial evidence that she was out there at the gas station without her phone. And I know that Fred Hill talks about some cameras that are in the area. He goes out there and he points at them. I know you mentioned that there's a way of getting out of there, but if they saw her in her vehicle, wouldn't she have to pass by in front of those cameras to get out?
I agree, Dan. I think law enforcement has a lot more than we do on her movements during those 3 hours.
Now, one of the other things that I've been wondering about, and I'm glad that we were talking tonight, is how long has the tree trimmers been out there? How long have they been out there
during that time period?
Yeah. How long had they were they there days before? Had they been there for a few days? Was that the first day they were there?
That's a really good question. I don't know. Maybe some folks in chat who have been following this case a long time would know. I know that they had been out there at least several days before, but I don't know how long they had been there before that. So.
The Wells had dogs, right?
Yes, lots.
Okay. How did the dogs react to the tree trimmers that were next door?
Yeah,
or next
good question.
And did that cause them to run away? Did that cause fear? Did that cause maybe perhaps the ability of somebody else being in the area to be masked? I think there's those possibilities, but if they had been there a few days, making the noise that they had been making, I don't see it being an improbability that maybe the dogs got accustomed to them as well. But yeah, where does Dawn say the dogs were?
Not there. They were not there on that day. Never said where. Everyone kind of jokes that they were on vacation or what, but they weren't there.
Wait,
and it could be Dan. Well, actually, what Dan was saying earlier made me think: did they intentionally try to put the dogs somewhere away because they were barking all the time because of the tree trimmers?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering is if they did something with the dogs because of the tree trimmers, and this is why, some people are, why the dogs aren't barking, why the dogs aren't making noise, why they aren't alerting anybody. But I also think that the trail that the dogs walked, when you look at Don walking down that trail, it doesn't appear he's following a path that was put there. Like, there's not a visible path there that looks like an animal had been going back and forth. I think the point that he mentioned was that, or what he probably meant was that was the trail, the scent trail, not necessarily a dog trail where his dogs walked back and forth. And it led down to the street. Kind of thinking about all those things. I know there's folks thinking about the dogs. I'm wondering about the tree trimmers being out there for so long.
Chillbilly is a local, and he knows. I trust his comment here that they had been out there all summer. So yeah, it had been a while.
Okay.
Where would you put that many dogs? That's just so sus to me that they have that many dogs and they just
can't put them in your vehicles. I mean, they've got only so many vehicles. I have no idea. In the shed, who knows? I do have a quick question though. So you saw Dawn in this interview. We've talked a lot about Candace, and I'm going to withhold my opinion on what this interview kind of made me think about Dawn. I want to get both of your thoughts first on, does Dawn have guilty conscience? Does he know anything based on these interviews?
What do you think, Dan? I could tell you what I think. I don't care who you want to go first.
I don't think so. But when it comes to Don, I feel like he would be the easiest one to file a case against if he had something to do with this, like physically had something to do with it. I mean, shoot, even if he orchestrated it, I don't think he's smart enough to hide that orchestration. But he was about an hour plus away, and he had his phone with him. He called 911. He had checked the internet and all this other stuff throughout the day. And so there should be a location of where he was at throughout that entire day. There's proof of life throughout that day of Summer Wells. And so it'd be very easy to determine whether or not he was physically involved, meaning that he was there or not. Now, does that change? Maybe he knew something. I don't know. I mean, he seems so like less guarded than Candace. Like, he was so easy to, like, when Phil said, "Yeah, I believe you," he like ate it up. And I think that when Candace was breaking down in the interview, and he was like, "No, it's okay, it's because he was still under the impression of what it is that they told him before, that, we're on your side. And so he believed it throughout the entire time frame. I don't know. I don't know if he's holding anything back or not, but I will say that I would expect law enforcement to be able to pull up the evidence needed to arrest him if he had something nefarious to do with the case.
But by now, right? I mean, long before now, don't you think?
Yeah, like within weeks.
Yeah.
Weeks.
Dr. Werner, before you give your answer too, I should give you, so a lot of the reasons people have been saying Don is the devil and he did it 100% is because he doesn't exactly have the greatest past. Okay, he has admitted, and there's been, when he was 17 years old, there was an issue with his stepsister. There was some SA stuff that they disagree on. So there's stuff in his past. He has a history. He has a criminal history. There's drugs there, and he admits that he has a bad past. And people have absolutely taken that and said he's a predator. Like, you can see the comments. People are saying,
did he try to sell his kid? I saw that in the comments.
See that? There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories like that.
But is it true? I've heard that story.
I don't know that one.
I thought that his doesn't he have a daughter or something that like says, she speaks out about him, about how he's no good.
A sister. His sisters all the time. Yes, they're very anti-Dawn. You've got a history on both sides. You've got Candace, who had kids she's lost in her past too. So both of these people, they have a rough history. Does that mean that they are guilty of this particular crime? Like, I don't.
No, it doesn't mean that, but I don't know why. I still feel like at least I feel like there's something there that we're not hearing yet. Like, I feel like there's still something that's not being said. This is the thing though, you guys. So if Don did know, I don't know that we would know it. So I know that he looks like he doesn't know anything and Candace does type thing. But if you have antisocial personality, you could do that easily. And that's why a lot of people, like, if you think about it, serial killers that got away with it for 30 years, like, they would kill and then go home and eat dinner with their family, like nothing happened. So, like, you would have a lack of anxiety. So I would expect that. This is my thing. You pulled up the comment. Someone said something about Don, about being ill-advised to, like, underestimate him or whatever. I could see why somebody would say that. And I just feel like there's just a lot of bad things that have been said about him in the past. And even I heard one thing that he said where he was like, they asked, like, what do you think happened to her? And he's like, oh, they definitely, like, did something bad to her. Like, he went right to, like, sex and, like, torture type thing. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I don't even know that I'd be able to put my brain there. If, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like really into, like, that movie Freedom, Song of Freedom.
Yes, yeah, very much.
And he's very much influenced like by that.
I don't know what that is. I'm gonna have to look it up.
It's a movie involving sex trafficking and things of that nature with children.
So Dr. Vona, if you talk to him in person today, most of what he will talk to you about is his theory that there's a conspiracy through CPS abducting children and selling them, and it's a massive conspiracy in his head. And that Summer was a victim of this. And it's like conspiracy theory level.
So I think that we sometimes say things and we tell some truth in what we're saying. So could it be that he knows something about a SA ring type thing and maybe it's not the government? Maybe. So, like, I feel like, is there a little bit of truth in what he's saying, but not all truth? Because we see that often with, and again, I don't know. You would know more than I do.
Yeah, but your insight into this interview in particular is very valuable to me, because when I watched it, and I think that's kind of what Dan was saying earlier, is he seems like he's sitting there going, thank you, Dr. Phil, exactly, we're innocent. And like, what you just said, it looks like he doesn't know anything and that she's hiding something. And that's on a superficial way of looking at it. That's what it looks like. And what I'm getting from you is, we should probably go beyond the superficial.
For sure.
And
with Dr. Phil, when he was saying that, and he was like, yeah, like, the way I took that more, I took it the same way, but I thought of it differently. So what I thought of it as is that if you have, like, antisocial personality, you might think that somebody else is on your side in that moment, not realizing that they're not. So that's how I took it, is that he didn't get that Dr. Phil was trying to manipulate back, because I feel like he is the one that usually has control in the relationships or situations. I don't, that he has. So I feel like he's the one that, and when he doesn't have control, I'm sure he's in a situation where he could just get up and leave and not talk to that person. So it's like, do you see what I mean? So I feel like I don't think that he was ready for Dr. Phil to come at him or challenge him the way that he did.
And Dr. Phil never did the way he did with Candace either, if you think about it. Like, he turned to Candace and he said, what do you know? You notice he didn't do that to Dawn, and I wonder why. So
when he does say with Dawn, it's because he tells him to let Candace answer. Yeah. But you're right, he doesn't. And I think that part of that could also go with, who knows, Dr. Phil might be thinking, like, he has to tread lightly. I genuinely believe, because I never would have thought this until, like, if we didn't have this talk tonight and I just watched Dr. Phil, I would have never caught the part about how Dr. Phil says, like, I don't think you're guilty. Like, it would have never occurred to me that maybe he was doing that more as like why he was doing that. And I almost feel like she was under that impression that he was going to help her, be on her side type thing. And that every time he felt that she was starting to question him, that was his way of ensuring her that I'm on your side. He even said, I'm on your side in the one part.
He did. Yeah.
But I feel like Don was like taking that in as, see, he's on my side.
I also thought that the way Dr. Phil went towards Candace in those moments was because he saw her as the weaker person.
For sure.
He probably thought that if he's going to break one of them, it's going to be her. And so make sure that she's answering the questions.
That's a really good point.
I'm surprised that they didn't try to talk. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they did try to talk to her without Don. Like, I just think it's interesting that whenever she's being interviewed, he's right there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think that she might have requested that because every single media interview, either he was there, I think of her request, or since a certain point, I don't know if it was 2023, 2024, she flat out was like, no more media. Dawn did them all. She wanted him to do it. She refuses to do any.
So more
yeah.
than her request, it could be his wanting to set the narrative the way that he wants it to be set. And maybe he doesn't feel like she's capable of doing that.
Yep. Well, we are hitting 3 hours at this point already. I can't believe it. And there was, I'm not going to go into it. There was the whole Dawn behavioral panel interview. There's also like,
well, let's do this again. Let's do another part to this because I want to hear more.
There's so much. There's the a news. I have the full unedited news interview with both of them describing what happened that day. I've got Grandis's interview with some.
Why do we call her Grandis? Does anyone know?
She has the same name.
Grandmother Candace.
Oh, she has the same name.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Also,
why are people calling her that? Gotcha.
Also, I wouldn't mind looking at, since we mentioned about Candace, if you really want to get an idea. I've only seen little bits and pieces. I haven't seen it all either. But doesn't Chris McDonough interview her without Dawn? I mean,
I think he does.
when he's doing the house tour,
Doesn't he just show up there?
McDonough does. Yes, Chris McDonough does at the water hole, at the swimming hole, and at the house.
So we need to watch that two together.
That's a fascinating interview.
I have not seen the one at the summer, at the water hole. I've only seen parts of the house tour, and so I would be interested in seeing the full on of those to kind of determine what Candace is without Dawn around.
Me too. Let's do it.
It's fascinating. That would be awesome. Yes, man. Thank you guys.
Dan,
for being
set it up.
What's that?
I said, Dan, set it up.
Please do.
I'll set it up, guys. I'll set it up.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being willing to spend this much time here and discussing this. It's very insightful. Really appreciate it. So,
make sure if you're here on my channel that you go over there and you subscribe to these guys, and make sure you come subscribe to me too.
Yes.
So you know what I mean? So we get out there a little bit more and have other people hear what we have to say too.
Yep. Please, everyone, subscribe to the DT show. Please subscribe to Dr. Vona. What's the name of your channel again, Dr. Vona?
The Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona. I think if you just look up at Dr. Vona, it comes up too. But The Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona.
Your popularity is skyrocketing so much that someday we're going to be going to CrimeCon and I'm going to be begging you for your autograph.
Shut up. Stop it right now. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
And if that day ever comes, trust me, you'll be coming too. So don't worry about it.
Oh, thank you. That'll be awesome. All right.
If I got that big, it would be on me. I'd take everybody.
That'll be awesome. We'll all have a party.
Dan will be up there too. You'll all be up there. Stop.
Yep.
All right, you guys.
All right. Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Love talking to you.
Talk to you later. Bye, you guys.
Right,
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
All right, everyone. That was a lot to dive into. I had more clips to go through, but these lives, man, 3 hours hits so fast. And like we talked about, there's a lot of other interviews. There's a lot of other videos we're going to be going over. So we're going to do it again. It might be on Dan's channel, might be on my channel, might be on Dr. Vona's channel, but we multi-stream, so you'll catch it everywhere. So thank you for all the great comments tonight. You guys were wonderful. Thank you, mods, for taking care of any trollish comments. Appreciate that. Again, please do subscribe to DT channel, Dr. Vona, or if you're not subscribed to us, please make sure to subscribe. We love having the tribe growing, and we love these discussions, these in-depth discussions, and having you guys here just icing on the cake. So it was wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all too. Thank you, Lulu. Thank you, everyone. Please have a great night. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.